And we are live. Friends, how you doing on this Wednesday, about 11:05 in the morning? Rusty back with you here, Central Florida Weather Live, tracking another round of what could be some rowdy storms moving back through our area. We had a pretty hefty round that moved through early this morning. Still some remnants of that will track as well. And then another beefy complex of storms coming out of the eastern Gulf of Mexico that'll be moving from west to east here. This could be one of those days that will be on for a while, tracking these storms as they slowly move east and eventually push off towards the south. So joining you here just after 11 a.m., let me give you some of the newest information. We had a tornado watch that was in effect for all of Central Florida until 11 a.m. That was allowed to expire. They reissued a severe thunderstorm watch until 5 p.m. So now all of Central Florida, the entire area we cover here in Central Florida Weather Live, is under a severe thunderstorm watch until 5 p.m. It means conditions are favorable for some severe storms during that time frame. Now, I think one reason why they went from a tornado watch to a severe thunderstorm watch is because we didn't have any tornadic activity this morning, thankfully, and hopefully that first round of storms kind of raked the atmosphere just a little bit, so we don't have to deal with the intensity as far as the spin with some of these storms. But we're still looking at some threats of winds of up to 60 miles an hour and potentially some inch-size hail as well. So let's kind of get into what's going on as far as the storms go right now. And as you're doing so, it's great to see you guys. See some of you are joining me, and I appreciate that. And again, feel free to jump on the chat and ask me a question while you're there. Hit the like button. Let me break down what's going on right now in Central Florida. We've got another round of storms beginning to move into the Big Bend area. Right now, there are no severe thunderstorm warnings, but these are very healthy storms that have been tracking through portions of Levy County and into Alachua County, the western sides of Marion County and Citrus County. You do have some decent lightning right now, places like Chiefland and Otter Creek. That is going to be moving into the Gainesville area here. Obviously, there is a special marine warning with all of this activity. Now, this is the radar site out of Tampa, and of course, we can look much deeper into the Gulf of Mexico here on the western side and look at these storms lining up. And as these impulses of energy come in, first of all, they're going to have some pretty hefty rain. They're going to have some lightning associated with it. And then I'll be watching for any rotation with these storms trying to move inland as well. So that's something I'm going to keep a very close eye on. Again, the tornado threat is low, but it's also not zero. The Storm Prediction Center, when they issued this severe thunderstorm watch, made it a note to say that a tornado or two is still possible. So I believe the threat has decreased throughout Central Florida, but it doesn't mean it's not zero. So it's something to stay vigilant on as we roll through the remainder of the early afternoon hours. Here's a cell that's going to be moving into, click that right back on there for you. That's going to be moving into Citrus County, moving into Homosassa in about 18 minutes. Homosassa Springs 21, Lecanto 30, and eventually Hernando in at 43. It's racing at 46 miles an hour. The opportunity for some smaller sized hail with that. If nothing else, some very heavy rain. There's a lot of lightning right now across US 19 and 41 there in portions of Citrus County, trying to work your way up into southwest Marion and the southern sides of Levy County. So strong storm there, nothing severe. There's a little break in the action as far as the activity actually going inland right now and on shore until you get back down towards the Skyway Bridge area there between St. Pete and Bradenton. You can see, by the way, our live lightning data, again, in the top center of your screen. You're going to be looking at the lightning strikes over the past 15 minutes. And I have really, by the way, filtered out a lot of the lightning strikes. There were so many that you can change this by the energy they produce, believe it or not. And so I went really high. So there's a little bit more lightning than what's there, but quite honestly, it was covering up so much of the radar, it became difficult to kind of analyze things. I'll tweak that as we go, but needless to say, there is plenty of lightning that's going to be coming on shore with these storms. And again, coming out here at 11 a.m. with the new issue of the Severe Thunderstorm Watch, but obviously we're going to be tracking this whole complex moving in. And if you see how wide it is, again, this is going to be encompassing all of Central Florida as it rolls in. That's why the Severe Thunderstorm Watch goes all the way until 5 o'clock. Now, One good news is that we continue to see these storms trying to mush off to the south, and this is going to be the last round of this active weather pattern. We still have to get all the way through the late afternoon, friends, but eventually all of this activity moves off towards the south. Hi, Ramona. Great to see you. Thank you. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you very much. Charles says, loving these live feeds, driving in the 520 right now, trying to get back to Cocoa Beach. Pretty rainy. First of all, Charles, I hope you're the passenger. Please drive safely, but thank you very much for that report. And Charles was mentioning the 520 there, and actually this was the next area I wanted to get into. This is kind of what's left over from a rowdier line of storms that came through northern and the metro sides of Orlando earlier today. There was one severe thunderstorm warning at around 6 a.m. up in the DeLand area. It's still, kind of wet here. It's not severe, and there's not a lot of lightning in portions of eastern sides of Orange County, northern sides of Brevard or Osceola counties, but there is still some pockets of heavier rain from time to time. I'll tell you what, as a matter of fact, if we're talking about that, I'll just switch over to the Melbourne radar site. It'll take just a second to pop on. But again, being able to switch our radar sites and get you the closest radar always gives us the best view of these storms. And not only can I go from site to site, but I can do a composite, meaning we're going to combine all of them together. And then that way we're looking at storms from all different directions. Okay, it helps you out with analysis as well. But if we're talking about the storms a little bit farther to our east, it's more advantageous to switch over to the Melbourne radar. And again, you can see that it's just some good rain. Now, even still into the Lake Nona area here, we continue to see some showers, maybe a lightning strike or two. And again, the red glow that you see is the severe thunderstorm watch on this system, the way at least I have it set up right now. Severe thunderstorm watches will be pulsating in a red color. Tornado watches will be pulsating in kind of a purple color. So again, just so you know kind of what we're looking at if you're just tuning in. Again, severe thunderstorm watch, all of Central Florida until 5 o'clock. Let's see what this cell wants to do here. It doesn't look like it really wants to go very far at all. It doesn't really look like it's moving, but there could be some hail here south of that 520 area, 192, and then just to the east there, 441. Again, pretty rural areas of Osceola County. Now you get back into places like Lake Wales, and there's some heavier rain there. Let me see here. I need to click off of that. There we go. So you can see Lake Wales all the way down towards the Frostproof area, which, by the way, my grandfather and his family settled in the late 1920s. That's where they settled in Central Florida to begin with. Then they moved over to Bradenton. But anyway, it's great to cover other areas like that. Kind of interesting. So you can see some of these showers and storms that are through the region. Auburndale area, a little bit of light rain. But again, this is and shouldn't be severe in this area here, even out towards Bithlo. And we even had a couple of showers just trying to hold together, even closer to downtown Orlando. Let's take a look at that. Here's the UCF area, University Park, Union Park, Azalea Park. Fairly solid shower there right along the 417. So, 417, the Eastern Beltway is a little bit on the west side. Thank you, Charles. Charles is like, yeah, I'm the passenger. I appreciate that. It just makes me feel better. But again, even a few showers are trying to linger on the eastern side of the Metro Orlando area. Just some rain right now, but almost kind of nuisance showers. So again, this should eventually move off towards the east, and you can see where some of the heaviest activity has moved offshore, but it still is wet right now for places like Cape Canaveral and Merritt Island and Rockledge and Cocoa. So portions of Brevard County will be fairly wet. Charles Drive-In is going to be on the wetter side. I mean, even towards Cocoa, there's at least some light rain. But again, nothing severe out of that. Where I am going to be focusing in on is all of this activity moving in from the west coast. So let's go back over to the Tampa radar here. And again, we're going to take a look at a lot of different things, guys. Got a lot going on through the remainder of the afternoon hours. I'll be with you here as is necessary. And we're just going to take our time. Again, you have a specific question about the forecast, drop in the comments section below. I'm happy to do that. And I'm going to show you the model coming up here as far as how this should be playing out for the remainder of the day. But if you're just tuning in, because we're just getting started here on Central Florida Weather Live, the entire area is under a severe thunderstorm watch until 5 p.m. So we've got 5 hours and 45 minutes to go. Now, obviously, that can be shaved in location or in time, depending on how the storms play out. But I've been looking at the high-resolution short-term models, and I don't think the last of the storms clears our southern zones until at least 5 o'clock. We will get drier quicker to our north in general for today, and so we might be able to cut off some of the northern areas faster than 5 o'clock, but we're going to have some rowdy storms, especially over the next couple of hours. Again, back up into Citrus County and Levy County, you can see again these storms tracking through. Here's one moving through the Williston area right now, headed towards Newberry, and then eventually kind of sneaking over towards Gainesville as it tracks off north and east at around 35 miles an hour. Small hail associated with that. One thing I'm going to keep an eye on is obviously going to be the wind threat. As a matter of fact, because we're going to be monitoring that, at least for a brief time, I'm going to pop on the wind gusts over the last hour, so those will pop on here momentarily. And again, if we have any winds coming in with these storms, we'll see it here. Right now, things are relatively tame, 20 to 25 mile an hour winds. But again, as these storms ramp up, you know, there's this friction difference, right, between the water and land, and these storms can pick up in intensity with a snap of a finger as they move inland. And then if you have some kind of rotation or shear in the atmosphere where there's twist as these storms are coming inland, it does help aid in the potential tornado threat. And I believe exactly why the Storm Prediction Center had a tornado watch earlier today. Thankfully, we didn't have any tornadic activity, and so they've decided to replace this with a severe thunderstorm watch, but it goes until 5 o'clock, so pretty deep into the day. And again, they specifically highlighted a tornado or two is still possible, so we need to be vigilant about that and continue to monitor the situation. I'll say this, if you have travel plans, and hi Tom, watching from Flagler Beach, you know I got you covered there, my friend, in Flagler County. Thank you for tuning in. Like Charles was on the move, you need to get prepared for a wet drive. I mean, there will be pockets of some drier weather, but deeper into the afternoon that we go, we're going to be more covered up. It's going to be a stormy afternoon across Central Florida. So you're going to want those umbrellas. If you can, maybe plan to get out earlier and get back before this main line comes through. That's a great suggestion. Just like Charles did, you've got your phone, you've got the YouTube weather app, or not the YouTube weather app, the YouTube app. Of course, you can follow us along here on your mobile devices as well. It's another great thing I love about the digital universe is you don't have to be sitting in front of a specific device. The YouTube app is available basically anywhere, and you can jump on and watch us while you're on the go. But I do have my concerns deeper into the afternoon about how stormy it's going to be. None of us like to travel in the kind of wet and stormy weather that I expect. So again, I would say if you have a choice to maybe run that errand a little bit earlier in the day, you might want to. Now, my friends in my hometown of Crystal River and the rest of Citrus County and Homosassa and Inverness and Lecanto and Hernando and Denell and Floral City probably don't want to be going anywhere right now if you can avoid it. That's a pretty solid shower and storm that's moving through. A few lightning strikes here, there, and again, I have really filtered out a lot of the lightning. We're really only looking at the most intense energy lightning strikes, and I can go in and change that if I want to here. I'll just show you real quickly. I can switch to the options here, and if we wanted to go I'm at the high end of this, but if I wanted to go to a little bit lower end and I reset this, you'll notice when I zoom out that we're just going to get now over 460 lightning strikes. But the problem is, just to show you, when there's a really beefy storm, there's so many lightning strikes, it's actually hard to tell, maybe some of the reflectivity or some of the very fine things I want to, analyze there. So while it's cool to see a crap ton of lightning strikes on this, appreciably, we get the idea of where this lightning is, and I think that's the most important thing. So I'm going to bring it back to a little bit higher. And again, if I basically said, I don't care how much energy there is, look at all these lightning strikes, like 1,800 in the last 15 minutes. Super energized. But I'm going to go back to, again, a much more filtered, so we get everything on the board. But just to show you, again, what this system can do, what I can do, some of the things I'm analyzing in real time. And again, that's why I'm on live. This is real-time analysis. I'm watching a lot of this stuff with you guys in real time. I've obviously done some of the homework to kind of see the setup of what's going to be happening for today. So in the short term, we'll continue to see these showers and storms from the eastern sides of Orange County, Brevard, Osceola, portions of Polk County, slowly move east and drop off towards the south. More than likely, these will all stay non-severe, but we have the opportunity to pulse up a shower or two that could be a little bit stronger. Here's one right now that looks to be moving into places like June Park in Palm Bay and Melbourne. So if you know any friends who live there, first of all, give them a heads up. Secondly, tell them about our channel. I appreciate that. But this area is going to get hit with some stronger winds and rain. 30-mile-an-hour movement to the east. Hail probability is 60%. That's relatively high. The hail size is still small, less than a half of an inch. And more than likely with these storms, you're talking about some potential pea-sized hail at best. But the weather is going to close down in portions of Brevard County. And again, along this storm track, we can follow this in real time. So even though it might head towards June Park, in about 28 minutes, it's actually going to get closer to I-95 at about 25. So again, if you said, Rusty, I live 1 mile to the west of Melbourne, well, it's going to be coming into your area in about 33 minutes. Of course, the West Melbourne area there is highlighted at 31. But you get the idea that within this cone, we can take a look to the second based on the storm speed when this is going to be heading into your area. And this will be very important sometimes when we're talking about some of the really intense storms that pop up here, to be able to talk down to the second or even the minute about when these storms are arriving. But it's a great feature here that I have available to you guys. Again, storms continue in the Lake Wales area. They're scattered in nature. Nothing, again, is going to be severe out of this. Storms, again, back out west. And this is, you can kind of see what I'm coming on for. This is all marching off towards the east. As a matter of fact, let's do this. We'll kind of reset things for everyone who are just tuning in, because I do see that we have a few more followers and a few more watchers coming in. So let me go over to our composite radar, and I'm going to take off the lightning to do this. And I'm even going to take off the watch just for a second because I want to bring on this composite, because this is going to allow me to loop in a little bit better time what's been happening. So this will loop up, and you can see, by the way, when you see the yellow boxes, those were severe thunderstorm warnings earlier. This is a 2-hour loop. If you look on the top left-hand side of your screen, you're going to see this. So you can see all of this energy that is still cranking in the east central Gulf of Mexico. And if I go back even a little bit farther in time here, because we can do that as well, I'll go back the whole 6 hours, and I'll put this into motion. You're going to see, again, maybe you didn't wake up for those early storms, but those were the storms that I were talking about here in the northern side of the area. Now, those were fairly rowdy for time. You can see those storms crop up, special weather statements that turned into a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings, and a few more special weather statements as they marched their way on through. But this is the evolution of what's been happening here over the last 6 hours. So you had a couple of special weather statements and one severe thunderstorm warning. This is what's left over from the morning rain, and even a little bit of energy pulsing up right now from the Arcadia, Sebring, Fort Meade area, kind of firing into this area. So we'll see if these can get a little bit stronger. You notice that there's more triangle icons here. That is a potential hail threat. And so very interested at those last couple of frames here. Let me pause this up real quick. If you notice there in the southeast sides of Polk County, in Osceola County, we popped up a little bit more hail algorithm signatures. I'll be watching that as it tries to get into Brevard. But obviously the other big story is what's going to be happening out of the Gulf of Mexico. And again, it was quiet earlier today, but as I was watching through the morning hours, I knew it was coming. And here comes that next round. Now, again, what happens is you get these bow segments from time to time, some push of wind, and at that apex, you can really get some strong winds. So as these storms come on shore, sometimes that's what happens as well. But obviously, this is what we're going to have to be watching out for over the next several hours, and that's why there's a severe thunderstorm watch in effect all the way until 5 p.m. All right, so let's bring back on our model, and we're going to take a look at how this could play out over the next couple of hours. I'm going to let this loop up, and it will not take long because it's just going to be for today. Switch back over to our model timeline. Hopefully this thing will want to fire up for me here. There we go. And I need to reset this one more second. We'll go to 11 p.m. tonight, but the storms will be out of here by then. So you're looking at the high resolution rapid refresh model. It's one of the highest resolution, quick turnaround models that we have. I use it a lot when we're talking about very mesoscale, very small space forecasting here. And so you'll see a lot here in Central Florida Weather Live. So the first thing I always do, because this updates every hour, is I like to look and see, is the model handling what's outside right now well. And so if we look at the snapshot at 11 a.m., I think we would all agree that it's got a pretty good idea of what's going on. We've got the storms in portions of Brevard, Osceola. We do see some back down into Polk County, and then we have our line moving in. So the model's got a pretty good grip of what's going to be happening. It's kind of like if you're an accountant, garbage in, garbage out, or whatever you do, right? You're feeding information into a computer. You feed garbage information in, you're going to get garbage information out. So that's why there's a lot of different models that I look at, and I will absolutely discount some on some days because they just don't quite have a handle on things. And so again, looking at this in real time, I think we're good to go. Hi, Charlene. How you doing? Thanks for joining again. I appreciate you, and thank you for watching. Thank you for clicking that like button while you're here as well. So how does this play out in Central Florida the remainder of the day? Well, first of all, again, it's pinging on some high reflectivity and some potential hail signatures moving into the West Coast as we get towards the top of the hour. So that's the first thing that I note here. Then this activity drives relatively quickly in. You can see as we get towards the 1 o'clock hour, we're going to see another round try and make its way back towards Metro Orlando. But in general, this would be Citrus, Hernando Pasco, Sumter Lake, portions of Berrien, on over towards Orange and Volusia, Seminole counties, maybe northern Brevard for that batch, but there will be ongoing storms up in Marion and Levy and Alachua counties as well. Now, as we get towards 2 o'clock, notice how everything becomes much more widespread. Things begin to drift off a little bit farther to the south. Now, there's no big concentration. There's no squall line with this. So I hope that we don't get the big push of straight line winds through most of the area. My biggest concern would be the West Coast as those storms move inland. But you can see, friends, how covered up that we could be through the remainder of the afternoon hours. I mean, this is 4:50, and these storms could be cranking still through Central Florida. So even towards 6 o'clock, it might be a time before these storms finally move off towards the south. But this is the last round, but it's a big round. I'm going to let this loop up through 11 o'clock. You get a little bit wider perspective of what's going to be happening. And again, these storms are going to be a factor in our forecast the remainder of the afternoon hours. It's just a good complex of storms, a lot of high energy coming out of the eastern Gulf of Mexico. So that is what our model is showing will play out. Obviously, being live and covering it live, we'll be able to, see how this plays out in real time as well. But it gives me a good idea, and you a good idea of what to expect. Again, picking up the kids from school could be impacted, no doubt about it. Please be aware of that. Obviously, lightning will be coming in with this as well. And of course, it just depends on where you live and where you're viewing from about how that might impact you and when it gets out. If you have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in the comments section below. But that's the model that we're looking at here and how I think things are going to play out. And again, because of that, we do have a slight risk of severe storms from the Storm Prediction Center. They upgraded yesterday from marginal, which is the green, 1 out of 5, to a slight, which is yellow, 2 out of 5. Today was green, 1 out of 5, but they have upgraded us again back to a 2 out of 5, a slight scale. And again, the main threats are still going to be winds of up to 60 miles an hour and some inch-sized hail. But the Storm Prediction Center, in their latest discussion coming out with this severe thunderstorm watch, I'm going to click on it right now, they were very clear to say that a tornado or two is still possible. So the threat is low, but it's not non-zero, okay? So we'll have to watch out for that. And just before I came on the air, I was looking at some of the different instability models, and there is still some decent instability in the atmosphere, despite the fact that the storms that came through earlier today helped to kind of rake the atmosphere, cool it down a little bit in a couple of areas, and hopefully suppress the strongest of storms that would be developing, especially when it comes to rotation. So the early round of storms was actually somewhat of an isolated benefit for us as well. Again, live look, I'm going to give myself 15 seconds, get a swig of water. I'll be right back, friends. Okay, just like that, we're back. Great to see you guys. Looking at the chat again. Hi, Linda. Said Titusville just had a big storm. Okay, we'll look at that. I promise coming up in just a second. Cheryl says, hi, and thank you. I appreciate you, Cheryl. Thank you for tuning in here to Central Florida Weather Live. I am live on this Wednesday late morning. It is 11:30 in the morning, and again, the reason why I'm on live, as I've mentioned, when there's stuff going on in Central Florida weather-wise, I got you covered. And here's what's playing out right now. We have a severe thunderstorm watch for all of the areas that you see in this outlined polygon, which includes all of Central Florida until 5 p.m. for today. We had a tornado watch that went up to 11 o'clock, but the Storm Prediction Center decided to go with a severe thunderstorm watch instead. Hopefully that means that our tornado threat is much lower. I agree with that, although it's not zero as well. So the setup is a strong to severe line of storms will be continuing to march inland from the eastern Gulf of Mexico. That's going to be our main threat through the remainder of the afternoon hours. We have additional storms right now in our eastern and our southern zones from kind of the leftover first line that pushed in earlier for today, but it is still some rowdy storms from time to time. Linda just came on and said, hey, you know, we had a pretty decent storm there in the Titusville area. So Linda, let's take a look at what's going on with you. Going to switch back over to the Melbourne radar site now. And again, able to just switch sites like this on the fly is a great thing because I can pick and choose, you know, where the areas are a little bit better to service through the storms. And you can see what Linda's talking about here. Linda, are you on the south side of Titusville? I would assume that we got a little bit heavier rain there. Again, maybe it was just a little bit ago, but you can see some of what Linda is talking about here. And let me bring back on the lightning data as well. Not a lot of lightning with this at this point in time. They kind of can pulse up and pulse down. I would not expect any of this to be severe, but you can see some of this is even trying to trickle over the eastern sides of Seminole County. And here's another shower that's just popped up right over the Lake Mary area, Sanford. It's not heavy, but it's never fun to have rain across I-4, you know, and some of that also is back up into portions of Volusia County towards Deltona and DeBary. Again, it's not any real heavy rain, but, you know, I-4 is a beast enough as it is to have to deal with any showers across the area and folks slowing down from time to time. But again, you know, our afternoon drives are going to be impacted here. Even additional showers are trying to develop in Orange County as we speak. Again, a few showers there just northwest of Lake Buena Vista, very far southern sides of the Winter Garden area towards Windermere. Nothing big there. Still a few showers across the beach line, Lake Buena Vista, Lake Nona, and then some showers down I-95 towards Harmony and Holopau there. A little bit of lightning associated with that one. Again, not expecting that to be severe. It's a little bit more clustered up in the far southern sides of Osceola County and into portions of Polk County. And as I mentioned for our friends in Palm Bay here, again, this one cell is going to be a little bit rough. We're so close to the radar site here. Let me take that off real quick and let's get back to the Tampa site so we can take a look at that one storm. Remember, if you guys remember here just a few minutes ago, I was tracking that one that's going to be moving into Palm Bay. So want to continue to do that. It's a little bit better here. When you get too close to the radar site, that could be an issue as well. So again, it's a little bit farther back now, but you can see north of Yeehaw Junction, getting a little bit of purple and blue. That's high reflectivity. That could be very heavy rain, or it could be some moderate rain with some small sized hail. Okay, and then I've got this signature, which lets me know that more than likely within this cell, there actually is some hail. Now, what's interesting is that even though, you know, one of the problems is that we're pretty close to the Melbourne site, but I might go back to that. It's actually a pretty impressive signature to say it's 100% hail, 60% severe hail, and 1.25 inches in size. So what's happening here is that we're too far away from seeing the lowest levels of that storm. So that's one I'm going to want to watch. So let's get back over to the Melbourne radar. Let's bring that one back on. Take a look at that cell again. Now, I want to be clear about this too. Wow, look at that. Look at that. All right, that is an interesting signature, guys. There's a little bit of wind in there too. I don't like it. Definitely have some embedded wind right there, just east of 441 Yeehaw Junction. It's a nasty storm. Now, it's not detecting rotation, which is good, but it is detecting a lot of large hail. But what I'm concerned about is that reflectivity. See how there's that void area right there? There could be a little something trying to get squirrely right over 441. All right, I'm just checking a couple things here, guys. It's a unpleasant radar signature that I see. Got to keep an eye on this one, for sure. You can see that there is this appendage right here across 441. And obviously embedded within this, we could be producing a lot of hail. All right, now I will say in general, this is moving off towards the east, far southern sides of Brevard County. This is just a cell to closely monitor. And look, the National Weather Service in Melbourne, I promise you, is closely monitoring this as well. But again, in real time, just looking at it, I never like to see these appendages. It looks like it might be coming back in on itself. And again, you know, looking at this, does not appear to be producing any rotation, but that storm is definitely cranking up right now. Let me go back over to velocity real quick. You can see, again, when I'm looking at this, guys, I'm looking for reds and greens close to each other, okay? That means that there's different twists. And there is, see how it says outgoing and then incoming? It all looks to be outgoing and the strongest, but there is a core of wind right there being produced out of that cell. It's in really rural area, which is good. It's going to clip the far northwest side of Indian River County. All right, it's interesting. That's something to keep an eye on. There's no doubt about it. Let's do a couple of things here. I'm looking at what's called gate-to-gate shear. I'm doing, again, we're live, Central Florida Weather Live. I'm analyzing this in real time. All right, that is the hail signature, the probability of severe hail. So you know that we've got some pretty darn big hail coming out of that cell there at South 441. Again, this is far, far eastern sides, southern sides of Osceola County, the northwest corner of Indian River, and the southwest corner of Brevard. It is in a rural area, which is good because it gives me time to keep an eye on this thing. Wind shear, reds and blues. Again, these are all computer algorithms from the radar. It can do this in real-time analysis. I promise you again, the Weather Service is keeping a close eye on this one, if nothing else. It's just a little squirrely signature here. But what will happen more than likely is this part of the storm is really going to get intense with some heavy rain and hail, and then we'll just have to see if there's any inflow of wind into this little appendage here. Keep an eye on it for sure. But again, what I would say from this is it is headed into generally the southern sides of Brevard County. I'm going to do a manual storm track on this more than anything because I want to go from the leading edge. So from the leading edge, oh, I apologize, that's not going to work. I'm going to have to erase that. Let's try this one more time. Should be just a click. We'll go from kind of this side, and we'll take it out about 30 miles per hour. Just gives you an idea. It's a rough estimate, but I would say the Mico area at about 31 minutes. And again, even if this isn't severe, that's a healthy storm that's going to be coming in. Don't see a lot of lightning with it, again, and partly more than likely because I have filtered out a lot of the radar lightning strikes. But if I bring that back on here, and I just take it down to basically the medium level, we're going to pick up a few more lightning strikes out of that. Again, very interesting signature to keep an eye on here for our friends in southern sides of Brevard County. Okay. Watching the Weather Service, making sure they're not talking about it. But again, it's an interesting cell. And you can see that there is some lightning back down there towards Yeehaw Junction. Now, one thing that could help out, right, is if these storms can catch up to this, and then they all just kind of merge. That would get any of that squirrely wind out of that appendage. But that's a solid signature, and you can see that the computer is picking up on a couple of different intense spots within this. So on the far northern side, this one's going to be moving into places like Melbourne and Palm Bay. All right. Actually, not sure why we don't have a, there we go. I was wondering why we had missed that, but there you go. So on the northern side of this, June Park in 19 minutes, Melbourne and West Melbourne, about 20, 23 in the Melbourne area, 26 in Melbourne Beach, 26 in the Atlantic. Anyone who lives there, just get ready for an intense storm with some gusty winds and lightning. There's no severe thunderstorm warning out of this one, at least at this point in time, but it's going to be some nasty cells. And really the intensity of some of this has ramped back up a little bit. Again, all of Central Florida is under a severe thunderstorm watch until 5 o'clock. So we have these cells to worry about. As I've mentioned, the cells that are coming inland right now on the West Coast bear a lot of watching as well. So there's many areas here to keep a close eye on. And again, I'm going to switch over to the Tampa site to take a look at those, while making sure that I'm going to keep a close eye on that one heading into southern sides of Brevard County. All right, let's get back over to these. So far, they've cooperated, they've behaved. They're much more clustered up, but it's still some intense rain for Gainesville and Micanopy, Chiefland and Otter Creek, Denellen. Getting better in Citrus County right now. Still some rain up towards Inglis, but Crystal River, Homosassa, Inverness looks a little bit better. And we're getting closer to seeing this entire line segment work its way inland. So, you know, not a lot so far. Hernando, Pasco, Pinellas counties, even down towards Sarasota, but that will change. Weather's going to start to go downhill there in the next hour or so. And that main line is what has prompted the severe thunderstorm watch until 5 o'clock, because we've got to clear this before the weather gets better. All right, let me jump back on the chat if anyone else has jumped on. And again, thank you guys for watching and thank you for tuning in. I have a feeling I'm going to be live for a while here today. So feel free to enter the chat. Feel free to say hi. Let me know what's going on with you weather-wise. If you have a question, let me know that as well while you're here. Thank you so much for liking this live stream. It helps out the channel tremendously. Thank you so much for subscribing to Central Florida Weather Live. If you haven't told your family and friends about us, you think they get something out of it, I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys very much. And if you like to find some other ways to support the channel, you can also find that in the descriptions below. All right, so again, kind of resetting this, it's going to be an active weather day here across Central Florida. Multiple rounds of storms. We've already had one earlier this morning, and really this southeast area is the remnants of that right now. We have a complex of non-severe storms up towards Gainesville and Ocala, and then all of this activity that is still yet to march inland, and that will do so as we go through the afternoon. But even ahead of this, we're still getting some spotty rain redeveloping. I mean, Sanford and Oak Ridge, and there's a few showers there towards Lake Buena Vista right now. So for our friends in the attractions area, going to get a little bit wet. There's the 429. And again, I mean, it just might be a nuisance shower at this point in time, but it is going to be nuisancey rain for the next hour or so. And then the opportunity for some of that stronger weather to be moving in. You know, always keep a close eye on the attractions, because obviously that's one of the key areas where we know people are going to be outdoors in bulk. So really got to monitor that area. And if you have anyone who's been going to the attractions, let them know about us, and that will keep them advised. Again, pretty decent storms in the eastern sides of Orange County right now. Nothing severe, but there's even, again, potential small hail core south of the beach line trying to work its way back over towards 520. So eventually, If this holds together, maybe Sharps, Cocoa, and Rockledge, another round of heavier rain and lightning, but maybe even the possibility of some smaller sized hail. It's certainly not out of the question. Now, what has happened with this cell is kind of what I was hoping here. Let me switch back over to, again, the Melbourne site. We just get a much better view of that particular cell. All right, it's all looking better. And am I on the Melbourne site right now? No, I don't think I actually am. Yeah, I'm still in Tampa. All righty. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. Pop that back on. And again, the Tampa radar is shooting too high in the atmosphere to really get a good low-level look at that particular cell. Still have a little appendage, but again, what I was hoping for is that this cell is catching up to it and will hopefully disrupt the low-level wind profile on the southwest side of this cell, okay? And again, the Weather Service not issuing a severe thunderstorm warning or anything like that is good news, but again, there's a little bit of wind right in that appendage area, right there. Certainly you can see embedded within the actual storm, we have a wind field there, and that's where we could be producing some gusty winds and some hail. So there's an opportunity that this might spark a severe thunderstorm warning. We'll see. Again, National Weather Service is in charge of all of that. Fantastic meteorologists there. You know, they issue the watches, they issue the warnings. They coordinate with the Storm Prediction Center to issue the watches. And again, you can see these storms all the way back down towards Avon Park and the Sebring area as well. But these have picked up a little bit. You can see the intensity. You can see the lightning strikes live, by the way. Again, top side of your screen, number of lightning strikes in your area or in this view over the last 15 minutes. So the storms continue to track off towards the east right now. And again, non-severe, but they're pulsing up a little bit in intensity. One way I can see that is by the number of lightning strikes that have been continuing to develop within some of these cells. So again, they're so small, I don't think anything's going to become severe, especially this far north. But for Brevard County in general, you got to get ready for some of this heavier activity. We're already seeing some of that in Mims again, back down towards Titusville. Okay, Linda says she lives north. Well, that makes a little bit more sense as well, Linda. So thank you for that. And again, it's going to be spotty, stormy activity across the beaches here for the remainder of the early afternoon hours. But this cluster is beginning to move into places like Palm Bay and Melbourne, and it's going to get worse. And then this is going to slip over towards Mico and the Barefoot Bay area there, and Malabar and all of those places in the southern sides of Brevard County. So it's going to get wet. It's going to get stormy there. And again, this is a huge cluster that's really all filled in a lot. Yeehaw Junction down there in southern sides of Osceola County. Hefty rain there across the Turnpike 441. Once again, I would not want to be driving on the Turnpike through Osceola County. That's rough. You can see the storms have lined up again near the Frostproof area, back towards Zolfo Springs, Avon Park area, Sebring, healthy storms there, and then the march of storms moving back into our western zones as well. Spotty rain in the metro, nothing heavy. We're kind of in between things. This is kind of in some ways the best opportunity to get out if you had to, but if you had an opportunity to not be traveling for the afternoon hours, I would suggest that as well. Only because, again, the windows are going to close in pretty quickly. I mean, it's a little bit void right now in this area, but don't wait for too long because all of this is going to be moving in. And again, because we're looking at the Melbourne radar site, we're not really seeing the true intensity of those storms on the west coast. Just kind of wanted to focus on what's happening right now through Brevard County. So we'll go through that. You can see the heavier rain over the Mims, I-95, US 1 corridor right now. All this tracking off towards the east, by the way. I'll put this into motion. It might cooperate and let me do it. If not, I'll switch back over to our composite radar here in just a second, and we'll do that as well. But even if it's not, we'll do that in just a minute. But I'd rather stay on the single Melbourne site right now because, again, it's giving us good analysis of what's happening. There's the Cape. Not a lot of wind yet, still producing some 20-mile winds. That's about it. Scattered showers on the eastern sides of Orange County. You can see that rain again. Nice little cell Let's talk about this one real quick. Nice little cell coming back into Sharps, Cocoa, and the Rockledge areas here. Now on this one, again, if I do it correctly, if I drag it, there we go, and then we can extend it out. Probably got to go a little bit further than that. All right. So you can see now the times of arrival here. So for the Sharps, Cocoa area, probably in the next 20 to 25 minutes, we're going to start to see that cell work your way into that area. It's basically on top of I-95 right now, but moving off towards the east. So you get the idea of when you guys could be impacted from that particular cell. And you can see it jumping through, actually might be even a little bit quicker with that newest radar jump there, a little bit of forward speed. That's light to begin with, but look at everything behind that. But the leading edge might even be in your area in less than 15 minutes. Rockledge, still relatively quiet right now, kind of in between. The bulk of all of that is just west of I-95. There's your Melbourne, Palm Bay activity. Going to be really heavy there for Melbourne Beach and in the Atlantic. Don't see any lightning out of it at this point in time, but I would not want to be on the beaches. I'd be making sure I'm jumping in right now, covering yourself up, being all nice and safe. There's Mico and Palm Bay. And again, still this cell is very intense. And back in that core, when we look at this again, it still says basically hail is a guarantee and the potential for maybe even up to some inch size hail. Again, good to see that there's no rotation detected, but that's an intense storm on the southern side of Brevard County, more than likely just below severe weather criteria because there is not a severe thunderstorm warning. But again, doesn't mean that you're not going to have some rowdy winds, a lot of heavy rain and lightning coming into places like Mico and Roseland and Sebastian. So certainly a cell to monitor. And again, they've all kind of clustered up. They've all kind of congregated down here, which is good because it really does actually suppress the severe weather threat. Now, the hail could still be a problem, but as far as any wind issues and any rotation, these storms like to get by themselves and to have an undisrupted wind field at the low levels. But when you start to merge all these together, everything just kind of gets all screwed up and the ingredients aren't there. And I love to see that. And so I was glad that this cell that was here caught up with the southwest side of that cell and they've kind of merged. Doesn't mean things couldn't still get squirrely, but at least in the short term, I'm not as concerned about anything trying to get, spin up in a small fashion on that southwest side. Let's get back over to Tampa real fast. And again, you have a question about the forecast, drop it in the comments section below. Take myself off camera real quick here, guys. I'm going to jump back on and bring up our radar. There we go. And take a look at the difference at the Tampa radar there and those storms out west. They're pretty gnarly, aren't they? That's all it's going to be moving inland here as we go through the remainder of the afternoon hours. Looking up north, keeping an eye if I see anything that we need to really focus in on. I'll say it's a wet, stormy day up in those areas, Keystone Heights and Hawthorne and Gainesville, and then back into Marion County. Newberry there, western sides of Alachua County. It's a pretty healthy storm. Nothing that seems to be of a big concern. That's good news. Ocala, Bellevue, and of course I have access to the Jacksonville site. If we needed to pop on and look at these storms a little bit more, we could. So I have access to that. Again, healthy storm over Newberry right now for sure. Denell and Inglis looking a little bit better. Still some strong storms coming back into places like Horseshoe Beach and Cedar Key. I'm sure it's not a great day for our boating friends out there. Probably wouldn't want to be heading to the group of grounds today for sure. Look at all that lightning. This is, again, all going to be marching inland. Now, it's not the worst scenario to see that it's just kind of almost spotty, because when they really line up, right, in that narrow but intense fashion, that's when you can really have some of the strongest winds. But these are going to be rowdy storms. There's no doubt about it. And again, they go deep south and west. This is why the severe thunderstorm watch is as big as it is. And again, if you're just tuning in, I first of all thank you very much for doing so. Severe thunderstorm watch in effect in the areas in red. It's all of Central Florida. It's all the areas we cover here on Central Florida Weather Live until 5 o'clock tonight. It did replace a tornado watch. So thankfully it replaced that. And at the top of the hour, I'm going to reset things for all of our new friends who are tuning in right now. But again, for the Metro Orlando area, We're kind of in a break in between. There's still some scattered showers out there, but there's more intense storms to come as we get into the early afternoon. For our friends in the Tampa-St. Pete area, you're going to start to see more impactful weather move in also in the next hour. It looks to be, at least at this point in time, a little void just off of your west coast. That's great news. There's more intense storms either north or south of you, but certainly some of these could still pulse up, and you can see right now we have some pretty heavy storm activity over Anna Marie Island in Holmes Beach, to the southern sides of the Skyway there, to the northern sides of Bradenton, and basically right up 75 towards the Ruskin area right now, south of Gibsonton. Again, that's a healthy storm that's developed there and is beginning to move inland. So Bradenton will need to be aware of that one, Anna Marie Island as well. Scattered storms inland right now towards Frostproof. And again, these storms in Brevard County, I'll be keeping a really close eye on. They're going to be fairly intense, and there's the opportunity to maybe even get an isolated either severe storm or some hail out of that as well. Okay, friends, we're coming up on 11:57. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a couple minute break and be back on at the top of the hour here. Actually, there's one other thing I want to do real fast before I do that. I can actually add a little note. So we'll have a little fun and we'll do that right now real quick. Just in case anyone's popping on and they're not really sure. And now let me, am I really gonna have to do it all over again? I love it. I must be able to edit the font after. Okay, hang on. This is hilarious. And my typing stinks, by the way, too. I'm not a great typer. So there it is. Edit font. Bigger, make it bigger. How about that? What do you guys think? I'll be back in a couple of minutes. All right, friends, I will literally be back in just a couple of minutes. I'll see you just a second. All right, friends, I'm back. How we doing? All right, we're going to reset the scene here at the top of the hour, and then we'll get back into it here. First of all, again, thank you so much for tuning in here to Central Florida Weather Live. Back with you live here just after the noontime hour, 12:03, tracking these storms for you guys in real time. And again, if you're just tuning in, severe thunderstorm watch is in effect for all of Central Florida until 5 o'clock. We're going to get into the weeds here, and I'm going to be tracking these storms live for you. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. Again, one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this channel is to be able to interact with you guys in real time. So if you're here, you're watching, and you have an opportunity, I would love for you guys to be active in the chat. Please feel free to ask me a question. Please feel free to stop by and just say hi. Let me know where you're watching from. I do have an important question for you guys, if you wouldn't mind answering it, because as we're getting started here, Central Florida Weather Live, we're doing a lot of things, I'm doing a lot of things behind the scenes to, tweak and make sure that this is going to be as efficient as possible. My question to you is, what device are you watching me from right now? And you don't have to get specific, but if you wouldn't mind just telling me, I'm watching you on a TV, I'm watching you on a phone, I'm watching you on a tablet, I'm watching you on a laptop. It gives us an idea of the different ways that you guys are getting this information. And because we're on YouTube, you do have that opportunity to be watching from a plethora of different devices. So just very curious, if you wouldn't mind dropping that in the comments section below, I'd certainly appreciate that. Let's get into what's happening now, again, at this noon hour. Severe thunderstorm watch until 5 o'clock. We have clusters of storms that I'm going to be watching. We have this very healthy line along the west coast right now that continues to march inland. Some of that has been able to work its way through Marion and Levy and Alachua counties, portions of Citrus County as well, areas to the south like Hernando, Pasco, Pinellas, Hillsborough, portions of Manatee counties. Mainly has avoided you so far. There's been a nice little storm near Anna Maria Island, but this is what's to come. Now, earlier in the day, we had all the storms that rolled through the greater metro Orlando area, and that is what you see left over right now when I switch over to the Melbourne radar site in portions of Brevard County and other areas there. I might need to zoom in just a little bit more here, so I'm clicking the radar site and not the actual cell. There we go. A lot going on there now, getting a little bit more squirrely in portions of Brevard County. So let's get in on that right now. Again, this cell I've been watching very closely in southern Brevard County. It's got a lot of wind and it's got some hail associated with it, and it is going to be moving over the Mico and Barefoot Bay areas there, maybe as far south as Sebastian. So Sebastian, Mico areas. This particular cell, according to the radar, is producing some hail and the potential to produce some hail of up to 1.75 inches in size. Now, we'll see if that is true. I think if it was that high, the Weather Service would have more than likely issued a severe thunderstorm warning on it, and my weather computer is not showing a severe thunderstorm warning, and neither is the website. So, again, we might be able to discount the higher size of this hail, but more than likely there is some embedded hail within this extremely intense storm right now. I mean, you want to talk about some extremely heavy rain south of Malabar there, I-95, US 1. That is rough. Would not want to be driving in that. And again, it's trying to paint on some extremely high hail size. More than likely, it's probably just being congested with some extremely heavy rain. But we can look at a couple of different things. I do want to keep an eye on that velocity product, our winds. If you were watching a little bit ago, there was just this little appendage that snuck out of the southwest side of that cell. It does look like everything's calmed back down. I don't really see any wind fields of rotation. That is good news. It was a very interesting radar signature a little while ago. Now, when you see these brighter greens, by the way, next to the reds, that's a good push of wind as well. And you see that flash right there? It's a brand new lightning strike. If you're looking for your live lightning count, it's on the top of your screen. That's within the view, the lightning we've had over the last 15 minutes. But you can see, again, it's a pretty gnarly storm. I can actually go over here and take a look at, let's look at hail size real fast. See if that pops on anything. It does not. Okay. And then let's look at probability of severe hail. That's not there as well. Okay. So hopefully, this is just some really heavy rain. Could there be some embedded small hail in the Miko area right now? Absolutely. I mean, this is a really intense storm. I think it's solid. It's just below severe criteria. But again, let us be clear. Severe criteria does not account for intensity of rain or lightning strikes. That's not severe criteria. There's two things: winds of over 60 miles an hour and inch-size hail. That's it. And that's what the Weather Service would issue severe thunderstorm warnings on. So you can have raining cats and dogs out there, right? Frog stranglers, goalie washers, all the lightning you want, and you might not actually get a severe thunderstorm warning because there's not a lot of wind. Now there's something called a special weather statement that they can absolutely issue, and they did this morning north of Orlando for some of the activity up there, portions of Lake and Seminole and Volusia counties. Nice little cell there again, crossing Osceola County. This cell has really fired up over Avon Park. Ton of lightning with that one as well, and all of this continues to slowly track off towards the east. It's been really spotty through the metro Orlando area right now, but there we go. Let's see, Charles says, was on an iPhone, now home on my TV. That's the way to do it, Charles. Relax and enjoy. Linda says, home TV via YouTube, chat by cell phone. Oh, your weather radio just alerted. Okay. Uh-huh. Let's see what we got here, Linda. Well, if it alerted you, Linda, is it alerting you for the... It's either going to be the severe thunderstorm watch, which is still in effect, or maybe the special marine warning, depending on how you have things set up. But there's no active warning in your area. There's a special marine warning way south. So the cell, and by the way, let me make sure I have the special marine warnings on. I do. Looks like they're going to issue a special marine warning here. Hasn't popped up on my computer as of yet. Yeah. Just looking at this here. 12:07. Okay. Yeah, actually, for some reason, the special marine warning should be coming on, and they're not. So that's probably a good idea to do a quick reset, just to make sure that I've got everything. But there are no warnings for you. Yeah, marine warning. Okay, good. You know, Linda, I actually commend you for having it. Either when people have marine warnings set up, they've done one of two things on their weather radio. One, they're very vigilant and they want to know everything that's happening in their area. Or two, they don't know how to turn them off. I've run into both, where people are like, oh man, I really want that, or man, I don't know how to turn it off, so I just got to live with it. I don't know which one you are, Linda, but I've certainly heard it from both sides as far as that goes. So let's see here. Yeah, again, for some reason, just not getting those special marine, and we had them yesterday, so I'll look into it. I'm sitting here looking at them, and at least right now, they're not popping on. So I'll keep an eye on that, but thank you for letting me know. Let's see here. I want to do a few more adjustments since I reset things. That is not it. There we go. Get back into our cell tracking mode here. And again, that's a nasty cell over Miko and Sebastian, no doubt about it. Heavier rain coming back in right now through Melbourne and Indian Harbor Beach, Satellite Beach. Again, if you live in Brevard County, it's just some pretty wet weather for us here. Showers and storms, nothing severe. But as mentioned, special marine warnings are up right now. And you know what? Maybe, oh, it is a special marine warning. Okay. They're actually going to let it expire at 12:15. All right. Still should be showing up, if I'm being honest. But we'll keep an eye on it here. Let's go back over to Tampa's radar. Because while those storms are nasty, and we're going to keep an eye on them in Brevard County, we're going to have a lot of storms that'll be moving inland here very quickly. Look at all that lightning, guys. That's really what prompted the issuance of the severe thunderstorm watch, is all of this stuff coming in from the Gulf of Mexico. Now, there's something that I like when I analyze this in real time. Look how congested everything is. Nothing is out in its own environment. Nothing is lining up in a squall line fashion. That hopefully will suppress the opportunity for the most intense storms. Also remember, we had some morning storms as well, and hopefully that took out some of the instability in the atmosphere as well. But we still have this severe thunderstorm watch until 5 o'clock, and a lot of this is going to continue to march onshore through the remainder of the day. So again, we've got a break right now in the heart of Central Florida, Orlando and Sanford and Deltona, and my friends in Lake County and Claremont down towards Lakeland area. If you live across the US 19 area, the rain is starting to move back into your region. We had a nice little cell that's still ongoing right now. Holmes Beach, Bradenton, Anna Maria Island area there, just south of Ruskin. And again, that first batch of lighter rain moving into Indian Rocks Beach and Clearwater and St. Pete, Palm Harbor, Holiday, on over towards the Hudson area there. All that's going to be moving in. It's fairly light to begin with, but take a look at how wide this is. As a matter of fact, no, I don't want to do that. There we go. Let's take a look at that real quick, because I'm curious. So from, let's say, right about here to the coast, it's about 179 miles of scattered showers and storms in width. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Really is. Even down here, I mean, look how deep that goes. There we go. And that's the details of the severe thunderstorm watch, by the way, guys. If you see that. So the computer breaks down what the advisory is that was issued from the Storm Prediction Center. So severe thunderstorm watch 244, it's going to give the intensity, what's the maximum hail size, what's the maximum winds out of this, what's the general storm motion out of these, and is it what's called a PDS watch. And those are very rare. It would have to be a very particularly dangerous situation to have a severe thunderstorm watch that was a PDS. But you get the idea that we can also take a look at all of that as well. So there's a lot going on. So it's a couple hundred miles wide in some spots. And so that's some pretty gnarly weather still to move in, which is why, again, you know, this watch goes all the way until 5 p.m. Let me see if I can clear this off now. I think actually I need to bring this back on, and I need to, oops, I did not want to do that actually. See, it's still going to force me to draw, isn't it? There's a lot of things this computer can do, guys. I love it most of the time. Every so often, it can get annoying. Okay. I'm actually not really sure why it's not letting me just go back to my pointer mode right now. Let me try this one more time. See what happens when you want to play with your toys? Yeah, I don't want that on anymore though, please. There we go. Now my pointer's back. Okay. Maybe we're okay now. It's still showing me that. Let's see if we can do this now. All right. I think we're good to go. That's just a beefy cell over Mico. I keep coming back to it, but that's just a strong storm. If you know anyone who lives in Mico, Barefoot Bay area, high intensity, it's either going to be very, very heavy rain or moderate to very heavy rain with some smaller sized hail. That reflectivity is just extremely intense. I-95, southern Brevard County right now driving, woof, would not want to be doing it. Would not want to be doing it. Another little core there, 441 Yeehaw Junction area, southern Osceola County. Pretty rough there. Again, isolated hail certainly possible out of that. Brevard County just has some solid showers and storms. And again, it's a little bit more spotty now. Good news again, if you're just tuning in, and thank you for doing so. No severe thunderstorm warnings, but this watch is for a big old area, and it does go all the way until 5 o'clock. Let's get on our composite radar. This is going to be looking at everyone. Let's take a look over the last 2 hours how this has played out if you're just tuning in. You can see all of these storms here tracking through. Beefy stuff, guys. And again, earlier in the day, you see that purple, that was our tornado watch that went to 11. That was allowed to expire. Now we have our severe thunderstorm watch until 5 o'clock. And again, these storms do go to our north. Now, our friend Tom was watching from Flagler Beach. Tom's weather has been fine so far, but they're going to start to see a little bit heavier rain over portions of Flagler County. And again, all this trucking off towards the east-northeast at a relatively fast clip. Again, the average speed of these storms right now, about 40 miles an hour. So that was a really solid storm that moved through Alachua County. Didn't prompt a warning, but it's some solid stuff. You can see all of that activity through Ocala right now, moving over to the northern sides of Volusia County, the western sides of Flagler County. Another round about ready to move into portions of the Big Bend. Citrus County again, about ready to have another cluster of storms there. Homosassa Springs, on over towards Crystal River, across US 19. Again, not severe, but more heavy rainfall. Again, the winds have been cooperating, all right? Haven't seen a lot of rotation. There was that one appendage that I was keeping an eye on, but luckily it got kind of sucked up by another cell and those things merged and we didn't have to worry about it. But again, you can see all this activity here as basically knocking on the door of the West Coast. Heavier storm there over Anna Marie Island as well. And there's some pretty beefy storms. Again, it prompted a severe thunderstorm warning earlier. You can see that, or a special weather statement, excuse me, earlier there in the far southern sides of Osceola County and sneaking into, southern sides of Polk County, southern sides of Osceola County. And again, that cell right there was the one that had that little sneaky appendage. Didn't do anything out of it, thank God. But you can still see there's some decent lightning out of that and a nice little either heavy rain or moderate to heavy rain, small hail core that again could be approaching places like Mico and Barefoot Bay. Storms are really lining up now, by the way, in Brevard County. And I guess you can see here on the computer, it did pick up that special marine warning. If you look very briefly, you're going to see that blue right there. That was the special marine warning. So I guess it is gone now. And again, through Lake County, it's mainly light showers right now. It'll be picking back up. Again, you have a little void in Metro Orlando at this point in time. If you need to run an errand, it's probably not the worst thing in the world. I do expect the potential for school pickup to be potentially impacted across portions of Central Florida. That's going to be a timing issue. We'll see how it plays out. You can see all of the lightning here. And again, I've even filtered out some of the lightning strikes. We're only looking at the most moderate to intense lightning as far as energy produced from those strikes. If I put all the lightning on here, that count would probably be above 1,000. So very intense storms that continue to move through portions of our area. Let's see here. Linda says severe thunderstorm warning for Indian River County, Southern Brevard. Okay, thanks guys. It's probably because I'm on this composite here. Yeah, that is a severe thunderstorm warning. All right, give me just 1 second here, guys. Severe thunderstorm warning for northeast Indian River, southeast Brevard until 12:45. Severe thunderstorm located 7 miles west of Barefoot Bay. moving east at 30. It's been the cell that I've been talking about for about the last hour. 60-mile-per-hour winds and some quarter-sized hail, okay? So it's going to be right there. Unfortunately, it does not look like, and it could be a data ingest issue, that I'm not getting that actual polygon right now. And I do apologize for that, but we'll talk about it. Yeah, so the severe thunderstorm warning is going to be right in this area right here. As we mentioned, Mico, Barefoot Bay, Roseland, maybe as far south as Sebastian. It goes until 12:45, so the next 23 minutes. And again, moving off towards the east at 40. Now, some of the most intense part of this cell is already over these areas, okay? Going to be some lightning out of this as well, but really the gusty winds and then the hail threat. Quarter size is getting close to being potentially damaging. So if you live in this area, you have the opportunity to get back indoors. I would certainly recommend that right now. Make sure if the car is under cover, if possible. Again, you don't have to get crazy with it, but with that opportunity for those storms to be out there producing some hail, it's always a good idea. We can take a look at the winds. You can see there's a little bit of wind in this as well. Brighter reds, stronger winds pushing away from the Melbourne radar site. So I would expect there to be some decent winds, especially Mico South. Take a look at some of those wind field speeds right now. 30, 35, again, it's not going to be anything too significant, but you could be talking about causing some minor damage there, maybe knocking down a couple of trees or tree limbs, if nothing else. But you can see, again, nice little cluster of some of that. Let's take a look at our potential hail. And you can see that as well. Oops, sorry about that. Let me zoom back in. Bring back on the hail size. Well, it came up and then it went right back down. All right. Back to the velocity. I'm looking at a couple different things here, guys. I can certainly look at hail size. I can look at gate-to-gate shear, meaning I'm looking for winds. All of those kinds of things are possible within this. But we saw that hail core right there. All right. So that's an intense storm. Again, I've been watching that one for a while now, but that's what's prompted the severe thunderstorm warning in effect for the far southeast sides of Brevard County, and that does go until 12:45. Again, some of the places that could be impacted: Palm Bay, Sebastian, Fellsmere, Malabar, Roseland, all the areas that I've already mentioned out there. Fellsmere is actually a little bit south of the most significant part. They're still going to get raked in the northern sides of Indian River County as well. Again, that's a really solid storm that all clustered together. These were all individual cells that eventually merged together, became a really strong one. And you see the next one on the board, by the way. This might not be the only one that southern Brevard County gets. Frostproof and Sebring, you can see those storms ramping their way through the area as well. So that's going to be kind of clustered storms right now. And that one is really, really intense in the far southern sides of Osceola County there. I mean, that one has a ton of lightning associated with it. Back over to the west coast, and I'll monitor that severe thunderstorm warning for the Mico area. Back over to the west coast again. These storms have so far behaved, at least at this point in time. But man, again, there's going to be a lot of them moving inland. So I expect things to get a little bit more rowdy along the west coast over the next couple of hours. Again, a lot of lightning coming out with that cell as well. We'll throw it back on the radar. You can see how just congested they are though. So far, I haven't seen a lot of wind issues. Let's take a look at the wind real quick. Base velocity. A couple of spots where there's a little bit of squirrely wind, but nothing looks to be too heavy. Again, not only do I look for reds and greens together, but the brighter colors indicate stronger winds. So the wind profile at the low levels here is actually relatively calm right now. That's good news. And always to kind of double check to make sure that's right, I can put on the latest wind observations across Central Florida. So those will pop on as well. You notice that down here in the Avon Park Sebring area, you don't see colors red and greens together. You just see bright reds and pinks. That is winds going in one direction, but they're quite strong. These are going to be some 40 and 50 mile an hour winds in the Avon Park area to the east of Frostproof. But just to show you again that just because there's no twist with this doesn't mean it's not producing some really strong straight line winds, and that's exactly what it's doing there. Otherwise, the winds have been very calm lately in the Metro Orlando area. But again, we watch what's to come here. And there's just a lot of perturbations in the atmosphere right now. Just a lot of things that are kind of, twisting from time to time, but nothing is really organizing itself. And that's been great to see. I'm happy that the first thing they did was they switched it to a severe thunderstorm watch rather than a tornado watch that we had earlier. Thankfully, we didn't get any tornadic activity earlier in the day. And I think that's one reason why that they went with the severe thunderstorm watch rather than the tornado watch for the remainder of the afternoon hours. But again, there's still going to be some spots to monitor here. Again, that one is just a really, really nasty storm with the severe thunderstorm warning that is currently in effect for the Mico area there. Just checking a couple of things here, guys. Okay, so again, back to this storm. I think that's probably close. I mean, the Weather Service was saying quarter-sized hail. It may not be up to 1.5 inches, but you can see again, the algorithm continues to ping in the Mico, Roseland, Barefoot Bay area. A very, very strong storm. It's severe right now. It's moving off towards the east at 30 miles an hour. So I tell you what we'll do here. We'll do a manual track on that. And if you're just tuning in to Central Florida Weather Live, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Tracking a severe storm right now on the far southern side of Brevard County. Going to be moving through the Mico, Barefoot Bay areas, tracking its way off towards the east. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to reset that. I'm going to get a little bit wider view so we can get the 30 mile an hour speed that it's going for right now. Again, this particular cell is producing potentially up to some maybe some quarter-sized hail, maybe even a little bit higher than that from time to time. So the core of the storm is moving through Mico right now. What I did is I said, what's the back end of the heaviest intensity? So we've still got another 15, maybe 20 minutes based on the 30 mile an hour wind speed for this severe storm to impact the Mico, Barefoot Bay areas there. You can see that counting down. So again, if you live in these areas here, I can put that cursor right there and you can see the countdown. So let's say for Mico between now and 12:50 is the most intense part of the storm. The warning goes until 12:45, so it's about the time of expiration. Again, this severe thunderstorm warning is for the far northeast sides of Indian River County and the far southeast sides of Brevard County. It goes until 12:45. Threats are going to be 60 mile an hour winds and some quarter-sized hail. Some of the areas impacted, and there's kind of two areas. You've got this one here in southern Brevard County, which is going to be for Palm Bay and Malabar and the Roseland areas there. And then you have a second area that this watch goes, this warning goes to, and it's back for this core. Let me clear off that manual track. It's back for this core for the Fellsmere area. So the warning is kind of elongated from southwest to northeast, and it does include those areas that I just mentioned. Get back over here real quick. And again, thanks for tuning in, guys. Thank you for watching. I'm going to take a real quick break. I might actually reset my computer one more time here to see if I can get that warning to crop on, but I will be back in Okay, friends, I'm back. I wanted to spend a couple of minutes behind the scenes. I was trying to get the warning polygons to come back onto the system right now. I think it's just a good old server issue. I think that the computer ingests the information from the different weather vendors, if you will, for lack of a better term, and then obviously graphically spits out that data. I think that the warning server right now is having an issue. We still have our severe thunderstorm watch. You clearly see that right now. But we do have a severe thunderstorm warning here in this area. The polygon isn't showing up, and I apologize for that. But again, we've talked about it for a couple of times now. It is more than likely going to expire in 5 minutes. And this has been a cell that I've been watching very, very closely. But this is really an intense storm that moved over Mico and Barefoot Bay and Sebastian and the Roseland areas here over the last 15 minutes. The main threat with this storm is going to be some winds up to 60 miles an hour and maybe even some quarter-sized hail. We're beginning to see the strongest part of that cell move out of the southern sides of Brevard County. There's another intense portion of that cell right here that is moving over Fellsmere in northern Indian River County as we speak. Again, the warning goes for another 5 minutes until 12:45, and we'll see if the Weather Service wants to reissue any of that. But you can just see how there were all these individual cells here through the 11 o'clock hour, and they all merged together. That helps to reduce any spin-up threats, but it does amplify in some ways the very heavy rain and the hail threat. And look how widespread some of this activity is here. Again, through Indian River County and portions of Osceola County and areas off towards our south. Big cluster of these storms have kind of all come together now. The weather is improving for the rest of Brevard County. Still a little shower isolated storm over the Titusville area right now. But again, it's a little bit more spotty, at least as we speak. And again, just kind of resetting things here at 1240. Bit of a void right now through the heart of Central Florida, including the I-4 corridor, but things are getting a little bit squirrelier now across I-75 and US 19. And again, the severe thunderstorm watch goes until 5 o'clock, and the intensity of some of this activity is beginning to pick up, like in portions of Citrus County, Homosassa Springs, just south of 44 there towards Lecanto, Inverness, Floral City there on the 41 jaunt towards 44 back towards the turnpike there. Let's switch over to, and again, I'm basically right now going back and forth between the Melbourne and the Tampa radar sites because they both allow me to do different things. Obviously, the closer you are to a radar site, a little bit better analysis you're going to have. You're shooting lower in the atmosphere. We're going to better interpretation of those storms. So when I'm on the West Coast, I want to switch over to the Tampa radar site. It's going to give me a better idea of what's happening here along the West Coast. We get back towards the east, we'll switch back over to the Melbourne site. My friends in the Inverness area, nice little core right there. The opportunity that we actually might have a little bit of hail, not picking it up, but it is a relatively intense part of that huge cluster of storms there just south of 44 between Lecanto and Inverness, but more than likely will track across the Inverness area and traverse places like the 41 corridor as well, south of Hernando. So nice little core there. Looks like some very heavy rain near Floral City at this point in time as well. But you get the idea, friends. This is now the first push farther inland of more intense weather. None of it is severe outside of what's happening in far southern Brevard, far northern Indian River County right now. But that push through Sumter and portions of Lake County. And again, big cluster of storms dropping down US 19 and I-75 as well. And this intensity will more than likely pick up. There is a lot more activity to come from west to east. The hope and the thought is that we've reduced the tornado threat from this morning because, again, this was a tornado watch that went into effect through 11 a.m. It's been replaced with a severe thunderstorm watch, but the Storm Prediction Center, when they issued that watch, noted that a tornado or two is still possible. So it's going to be an active weather afternoon across all of Central Florida. Again, some areas have a break, and if you need to get outside and run an errand, that might be your best chance to do it now because these storms will be moving from west to east. They're going to be covering up a lot of our area through at least the mid-afternoon. I'll highlight it again. There's an opportunity as some of our school dismissals could be impacted by some of the storms. Obviously, it's extremely area dependent. Just make sure that you got that line through the school and you know if you're going to go into one of those 30-30 rules where it might take a little bit of time to pick up your child. That is a possibility. We're starting to see some of this activity get back even into our northeast areas through portions of Flagler County. It's at least some light to moderate rain for Ormond Beach and Volusia County, all the way up to Palm Coast and Flagler Beach and Marineland. Nothing too intense right now. You can see the lightning count on the top of your screen. And again, I've filtered out some of the lightning, so we're not looking at, hundreds and hundreds of strikes. It's honestly hard to analyze the radar when all those lightning strikes are right on top of us right now. And again, you can see the storms moving through places like Chiefland and very intense through Citrus County. And again, going to pick back up here right across portions of Pasco and Hernando and Pinellas and Hillsborough, Manatee counties as well, and then work their way inland. So then we'll be talking about Polk County, Sumter County, Lake County, and eventually back into Metro Orlando. Again, solid complex of storms here. We're coming up on 1245. I'm going to go back over here and see if the Weather Service wants to reissue that warning or not. Let's see, the last time they talked about it, they had not. So give me just one second here, guys. Still technically up, but we'll see if it's going to fall away here. Okay, they did reissue it. They just did right now as we speak. That's going to go until 1:30. And again, I wish I could show you that polygon, and I apologize that I can't, but we will track that together for you, I promise. So it's this same area right here. And I'm telling you, it's because of this core that's still to come through. So let's track this out together, guys. Severe thunderstorm warning is now in effect for central Indian River County and far southeast Brevard County. So now you're looking at Micco, Sebastian, Fellsmere, Indian River shores. And that was a very intense cell that moved off the Micco area. Would love if anyone lives in this area, Micco, Barefoot Bay, let us know what you saw. It's the same scenario, 60-mile-an-hour winds and potentially some quarter-sized hail. They put the forward speed a little bit more now, up to 40 miles an hour. So what do you say we track that cell together, moving out of the Fellsmere area at around 40 miles an hour? So there you go. Wabasso in around 19 minutes, but again, can zoom in and show you here that near the Sebastian area, we're probably looking at about 18. So let's call the US 1 corridor here of our track at about 17, 18 minutes. Here's Wabasso right there. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Not one that I have mentioned very often. There's Indian River shores, but look at this core. Whew. Look at that right across I-95. That is no bueno, man. That more than likely is going to be some hail right across I-95. I think some folks are going to probably be trying to dodge. It's never a good situation when a hail core goes over an interstate like this because folks want to try and line up in the underpasses. It can become a big problem, but that more than likely is a little bit of hail there being produced out of that particular cell. I'm going to switch over to the Melbourne radar site again here. We were getting a good shot out of Tampa, but I'm going to go back over to Melbourne. Bring back on our reflectivity. Looking at a couple different products here real quick, guys. So you can see right here, look at that hail core that the Weather Service, assuming the next red site out of Melbourne, is picking up right now. Got lightning around it. It's a very intense part of that cell. As far as size goes, it is pinging over an inch hail. So Fellsmere might have had some potentially damaging hail roll right through. Now it's moving off towards the east. And again, maybe if we're lucky, it's in between the higher populated areas of Sebastian and Wabasso, but we know that US 1 in this area in A1A. There's our friends in Indian River Shores. There's not many areas that aren't too populated or have some structures that could be damaged by this. This is northern Indian River County, by the way, if you're just tuning in. Severe thunderstorm warning is in effect. That is the hail core that you see coming out of the Fellsmere area, moving right over I-95. Very intense. And again, what I'm looking at is the potential size based on the algorithm from the radar. And we could have some more than quarter-sized hail coming out of that small pocket of hail. But nonetheless, I would not want to be underneath that particular one. A lot of lightning to go along with it as well. That's the reflectivity. Look how widespread that storm is. It's a beefy one. There's no doubt about it. Get back over to the chat. Again, if you guys have any questions for me, drop it in the comments section below. Happy to hear from you. Thank you for joining me here, Central Florida Weather Live. We're in it, guys. I've been on, I think, since about 11:15. And knew this was going to be just one of those days that we would be tracking some storms together. So appreciate you coming on. I know that maybe you're not going to follow me for hours and hours at a time, but I appreciate you jumping on and taking a look at things. Because again, there's an opportunity that things are quiet for you right now, but maybe you jump onto the channel, you get the heads up, you realize I might need to tune back in a little bit later in the day because Rusty's only on when there's something that needs to be talked about. And you can prepare. And again, for places like Metro Orlando, we're going to be watching this line of storms working its way in from west to east. We have what's really pulsed up to be more intense storms right now, far southeast Osceola and especially southern sides of Brevard and portions of Indian River County. Those are very intense storms. Again, a severe thunderstorm warning is currently in effect right now for the north central portions of Indian River County, far southeast sides of Brevard County, really from Mico, but really south towards, right on the border there, Roseland and then into Sebastian. Again, there's your hail core that will be tracking right across US 1 in just the next couple of minutes. That severe thunderstorm warning, guys, by the way, does go all the way until 1:30. So it is for the next 40 minutes. And although the most intense part of that cell may move off the coastline earlier than 1:30, there is that still at least some intensity there back towards Fellsmere. But it's that pink area that's going to be producing some hail and where the biggest area of concern is right now. And then it's also all cluster of storms here back into this area. And again, here's another one mainly producing some hail that could try and sneak back into portions of southeast Indian River County. There's the Vero Beach area, maybe up to some inch-sized hail out of that one as well. So intense cell out of that one. No severe storms here up in the Nature Coast, but that is a healthy storm over Inverness right now. And we do have, again, a little bit of a hail detection. And this is what I was thinking is what we were going to get here. Now, the times of arrival with this for Inverness isn't true because it's trying to also track this north. But for Coleman and Wildwood, it is. So you can ignore the Inverness time on that one. But back to I-75 and the Turnpike interchange, including 44, that storm's going to track right on 44 through eastern Citrus County, going to get itself there into Sumter County. And that could impact a very snarled area for traffic most of the time, which is the I-75 Turnpike interchange, of course 301, and the Villages and Wildwood here as well. So pretty intense storm will be moving into that area over the next 20 minutes. The opportunity for some pea-sized hail, maybe some dime-sized hail out of that one. I'm gonna keep a close eye on that. Anyone in the Villages, please keep that in mind for purposes as far as that goes. When we're looking at time, they are right across 301. We'll call it about 27 minutes or so counting down. So just after 1:20 for your time there as far as seeing those storms moving into your area. Pretty intense storm there in the eastern sides of Citrus County. And again, I think that intensity will just continue to ramp up as we go through the remainder of the afternoon hours, at least from time to time. You know, not necessarily all the time, but we're going to see a few storms get a little bit squirrely, just like we are seeing right now on the southern sides of Brevard County. And again, severe thunderstorm warning continues for this area until 1:30 p.m. Although the most intense part of that cell more than likely is going to push offshore a little bit earlier than that. Let me get over to the composite radar here. Sorry, my computer was doing something behind the scenes. Let me get over to the composite radar real fast. A couple of things I'm going to do, and I'm going to reset for the top of the hour. So I want to just throw this into motion real quick and have you guys take a look at how things have played out over the last 2 hours. You can see, again, there's a lot more storm activity in the Gulf of Mexico that's still going to be driving inland. There's a lot of storms right now in our southeast zones that have picked up in intensity as well, especially, again, way down in Brevard County, but those areas heavily impacted. It's been relatively quiet in the short term across the I-4 corridor, but again, we see everything that is still to come and march its way in. So that's kind of the look in the broader perspective. I can zoom out even a little bit more to show you all of the energy that's pulsating out of the eastern Gulf of Mexico that's going to be moving in. A ton of lightning strikes, and again, not even as many as there really are, because I've filtered some of them out just so we don't get literally inundated with lightning strikes. But again, you can just see there's a lot of lightning still to come on here. There's going to be some wind energy as well. Hopefully not a lot of rotational wind energy, which is why we don't have the tornado watch in effect anymore. But it's going to be a wet, it's going to be a stormy afternoon across Central Florida. Let me take off the lightning data and let me take off the watch real quick. And let me show you guys our model one more time. Haven't shown you that in about an hour. If you're just tuning in, I'm going to show you guys the high resolution rapid refresh model here, so we can time out these storms together and how this is going to play out. Take just 1 second for the model to pop on, but it gives you guys a decent idea of what I'm looking at here. I'll switch over to the model timeline. And again, you're going to see this for the next 12 hours or so, and we're going to go through this step by step. So again, the first thing I do is the model have a good idea of what's happening right now. It's missing out on a little bit of the storm activity in southern Brevard County, okay? I think it's still doing a very good job of what's happening along the West Coast, and that is where it's going. You can almost see it trying to pop up that storm, but a little bit later in time than what it's currently doing. But you can see as we get to 3 o'clock how quickly things fill back in across a lot of Central Florida, including Metro Orlando, including the Tampa-St. Pete area here. So more widespread storms to come, especially over the next few hours. As we get to 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, we hope that intensity wanes and those storms will push off towards the south. So I believe that timing from the the Storm Prediction Center, the National Weather Service offices for this latest watch is appropriate, with most of the storm activity beginning to ramp and wind its way down by 5 o'clock. But again, you're looking at what's going to be happening here by 2 o'clock, and you can see how quickly the radar fills back in. Of course, this is just a model, but we see that it's doing a pretty good job with what's happening outside right now, and that's why that watch is currently in effect for Central Florida. All right, friends, I'm going to take a quick break. Before I get out of here, though, for just a few seconds, I'm going to go ahead and put back on our radar. And again, streaming live for you here on Central Florida Weather Live, keeping you up to date with all of the storms and the activity going on across the area. I appreciate you very much. Let's get back on our composite radar here. I'm going to actually put that into motion here for the next couple of minutes. You can see that. I'm going to leave that up right now, and I'll be right back at the top of the hour. All right? Again, you have a specific question about the forecast, please drop it in the comments section below. While you're there, say hi. Just want to know you guys are here. I appreciate you. If you'd like to support the channel, please like the live stream. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And if you like other ways that you can support the channel, you can find that in the description below as well. I'll be back in just a couple of minutes, friends. How you doing? All right. I love it. It's live. Live. So if you've been watching, have not been able to show you guys the polygon warnings. Unfortunately, it looks like the weather server that brings in that data is not cooperating right now. So I took that break because I wanted to be able to show you guys those warnings. Didn't want to not be able to do that. So you can see here, now what we're gonna get is we're gonna get basically the county outlines of those warnings, but that's okay. So severe thunderstorm warning, again, in this area until 1:30. It's also going to tell you everything else that's going on. It's the best that we can do right now, but it's going to let us see that. And I can filter some of this information out as well. All right, but you get the idea of what's happening here. So I just wanted to show you that right now. Obviously, the severe thunderstorm watch is in our red areas. And then anytime we have a warning, I'm going to pop this back on. It gets a little annoying, right? Because there's a lot of information, but at least we can take a look at that. Again, just for some reason, I believe it's the server that ingests that information for the warnings. It's just not cooperating right now, but at least I have this backup system that allows me to at least bring that up. And again, I can from time to time, I'll go back and I will make some changes here. As a matter of fact, let's see here while I'm on real fast. And you can see it looping through, by the way. Just looking at, there's so many different things that we can filter through here. Trying to see those special marine warnings. No small craft advisories. This is literally like every single advisory or watch or warning that is in the entire Weather Service database. So I've turned that on, but it's going to get us everything. And then so kind of filtering through it from time to time. But again, the biggest thing is that we have that severe thunderstorm warning down here. So let me do a few things here while we're resetting. And thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Again, welcome to Central Florida Weather Live. Been on now for about 2 hours, but knew that this was going to be kind of a longer stream because we're going to have some active weather rolling through our area here the next couple of hours. Take a look as well here. Tell you what, let's do this real fast. You guys want to see a nice little satellite presentation of the storms that we've had over the last couple of hours. You can see that coming in with the lightning. Look how much lightning there is out of this. So again, it's prompted this severe thunderstorm watch. We have all of this intensity coming through, and we still have this big piece of energy here in the east central Gulf of Mexico to kick its way across the peninsula, which is why we have our severe thunderstorm watch that it goes until 5 o'clock. But that is your enhanced satellite imagery with the lightning coming through over the last 6 hours or so. And again, you can just see all that lightning there that's still to come through. So we've had some energy. We had the tornado watch that went until 11 o'clock this morning, but the Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center decided to go with a severe thunderstorm watch rather than a tornado watch, which is good because that means the intensity of the cells hopefully are coming down a little bit. It also hopes that the rotation with these storms aren't going to be as prominent as well. Let me get back over to what I call storm cell tracking mode here. It'll take off some of those other polygons. And again, monitoring the situation here, especially in Indian River County. And it does look like some of the most intense part of that cell has now, pushed offshore, but now it's headed towards Vero Beach. So weather improving in Mico and Sebastian, Indian River Shores, Fellsmere. Generally speaking, in Brevard County, we've now pushed those storms either east and offshore or south of your area. Still pretty nasty as you get south of Yeehaw Junction, but again, moving out of our area that we cover. And again, back into our northern zones right now, another cluster of storms back into Marion County, portions of Sumter County, Citrus counties, and then moving into Hernando and Pasco counties, and then eventually down the line in Pinellas County as well. So again, there is a bit of a void right now along the I-4 corridor, but we're watching these storms move away, and then the next injection of storms coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, which is why I'm on live. Great to see you guys here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me jump over to the chat again real quick. Hi, Gina. How you doing? It is nasty out, no doubt about it. And again, yes, a lot of storms going on indeed. Oh my goodness. I speak Italian some. I need to go back and relearn some of my Spanish. Severe storms on the northern coast of the United States. Forte, strong, potential tornado, potential for strong, heavy rain. Yes, I agree, if I am reading that correctly. And again, my Spanish is okay. Italian is a little bit better. Actually, I speak decent Italian. Been learning for 10 years. I better speak some Italian, right? Io parlo italiano per 9 anni, for 9 years. And they're old Romance languages. And I grew up in Florida, and I really tried to learn Spanish several times, and I just got frustrated by it. I mean, obviously, I was around it some, and have been around it a lot in the last 10 years, being back in Central Florida. But I wanted to learn Italian, and now I want to go back and learn some more Spanish because now all those verb conjugations make a little bit more sense to me. So it is something that I want to do for sure. But yes, we're watching the opportunity for some strong to severe storms. Again, all of Central Florida until 5 o'clock. Let's get back over to the next red site out of Tampa because I want to look at these storms that are going on right now along the West Coast. So we'll switch back over there. Again, I can have access to all of the next red radar sites across the country. We can look at even what's called the terminal sites, the terminal Dopplers out of the airports. I can look at a composite. So anything I need to do to analyze this, and I love this product because we can look at all of this in real time, and it gives some fantastic information while we're doing so. Let me pop the lightning data back on as well. And again, we're going to go from north to south right now. Let's do that. So for our friends at Ocala, Bellevue, up towards Lady Lake, we're starting to see this storm into your picture. Fairly good lightning right now across portions of 44 as it gets right close to the 301 and the I-75 corridor there. And that's what you're seeing for Coleman and Wildwood and obviously the villages. So pretty nasty weather there. I would be back indoors, wouldn't be wanting to mess around, playing around a golf right now in the villages, including the Lady Lake Fruitland Park area. All of this is tracking off towards the east, so it's going to be moving across 441, going to be moving across I-75 and 301, and tracking off deeper into Marion County, obviously towards the Ocala National Forest, but Bellevue will be impacted by this, and then Lady Lake, Leesburg. So the next areas of interest here, you can see, will be out of Sumter County, Coleman, Lake Pan, and then moving off towards the east. Now we've got Lady Lake, Fruitland Park, and the Leesburg areas kind of next up. There's your turnpike. It's 91 on the map. You can also see 44 that continues east throughout Leesburg, and then on over towards the 441 corridor there, 27, Fruitland Park, and eventually on over towards Tavares, where there could be some light rain beginning to fall right now, but the most intense part of that storm is still back into Sumter and portions of far southeast sides of Citrus County towards the Floral City area, where again we're showing there being a fairly strong storm, but at least there doesn't look to be a lot of hail coming out of that one, and again no rotation on that one. But that intense cell, as it moves off to the east at 38 miles an hour, will be in these areas here over the next 15 minutes, over the next hour and 15 minutes, and there you see some of the times of arrival as it moves off towards the east. So that's the cell that's just east of Floral City right now. Lake Pan at about 27, Coleman in 30, Wildwood 35, Leesburg 52. Now you will get rain ahead of this, but again, our radar algorithm is tracking it from the most intense part as it moves off towards the east. And if it holds together, you get the idea that it's going to be moving through the northern sides of Lake County. So that's one I'm going to be monitoring for you here very closely. It's still lighter rain, and it's great news for Spring Hill, back towards Newport Richey and Dade City and Land O'Lakes. Haven't mentioned you guys a lot yet on the live stream. It's because your weather has been relatively quiet. The cluster of strongest storms that have come inland so far have been north of you into Citrus County and the Big Bend area, and then they punched their way through Gainesville, places like that. You guys have kind of had a void right now, so enjoy it while you can. Again, when I zoom out, you still see clusters of showers and storms out there. One thing that has come down a little bit even closer to here is some of the lightning, and that's not horrible news either. Again, if we're not pulsating these storms up and getting intense lightning cores, more than likely we're going to see some of that wind energy want to come down as well. So it's not a bad scenario, obviously, to see that some of the activity that's closer to moving inland right now doesn't have a lot of wind energy with it. Now, of course, we could still rotate something in But again, we don't have a tornado watch anymore. We have a severe thunderstorm watch, although the Storm Prediction Center did say very clearly when they issued that a tornado or two is still possible. I believe that that threat is very low. It's not zero, but it is very low. We've done a few things. The morning storms help to kind of drop some of the instability out of the atmosphere. What we call raked some of that atmosphere. And hopefully, even though we're going to get clusters of storms developing, they're not going to be as intense. Now, again, there are going to be some exceptions to the rule, and this is a nasty storm down in this area. It is beginning to push out of Brevard County. It's almost out of the southeast sides of Indian River County. That's about as far south as we're going to be following here on Central Florida Weather Live. You can see how intense it is offshore as well, where we continue to have some special marine warnings. And I hope that we can get these warning polygons back up, but I'll be monitoring the situation for you there. So at this point in time, and again, let me go back over to the Melbourne Weather Service office here one more time. We're basically void of any severe weather in the area here. That storm is basically offshore. So severe thunderstorm watch, continues for the area. And again, when necessary here, I can bring on, I can bring on the advisories, and this is going to pop on everything. So it kind of becomes a highlight show, but you get the idea that I can look at anything this way. So we're not going to get the polygon, but we will get the issuance, and it will highlight the entire county. So you can see the special marine warnings that are currently in effect for the offshore waters. There's Brevard County. And again, all of this is going to be severe thunderstorm watch. It's in a different color because it also includes coastal marine areas. So you go inland and you have your severe thunderstorm watch in red. And then for the coastal marine severe thunderstorm watch, it's the same issuance. They just include the coastal marine areas. It's going to be in a little bit different color. So it is a way to still get the latest warnings. Again, the watch is just fine, but it does look like the server that provides me with the polygons for the active warnings is unfortunately not working right now. But again, another way to be able to bring you that information, and I'll be monitoring that. Let me get back to the chat and see how you guys are doing right now. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're just joining us here, Central Florida Weather Live, severe thunderstorm watch until 5 o'clock. Little break right now through the I-4 corridor. And again, the cluster of storms that were strongest in the southeast side of the area have begun to push away a little bit. So it's getting better for Palm Bay and Mico, in Melbourne, in June Park. Again, it doesn't mean we're not going to have some rain out of this, and there is still some lightning. You can see that on the top of your screen, but the most intense part of that cell has now pushed its way offshore. That is good news. So a little bit quieter weather, at least in the short term. So now it's the march of the storms out of the Gulf of Mexico and what they're going to bring Central Florida the remainder of the afternoon hours. We're going to have another 3 to 4 hours to be watching this for any opportunity that any of these storms want to get a little bit squirrelier at this point in time. And again, I have access to a lot of different things on this system that I'm very excited to bring you. You're looking at the live radar out of Tampa. We can look at all of the different NEXRAD radar sites. We can look at a composite of them. And my weather computer analyzes in real time any of these particular cells that I need to be monitoring. So when I see this icon come on, that's a potential hail icon. I can click on that, and it's going to let me know, first of all, where it's going and how fast. And that's some fast forward speed there out of that cell in Lady Lake. And then if I do a second click on it, it's then going to give me some times of arrival, all right, depending on that track. And again, it adjusts the speed to 52 miles an hour. So this cell in particular is going to be moving up into portions of Volusia County. So eventually, although it's quiet right now, one of the things I really want to do on this live channel is try and give you guys as much heads up as I possibly can. And what I love about this system is we're tracking this intense cell, and we can count down to the second when it's going to get to the Astor area, but not just the Astor area. For some reason, you know exactly where you live, and you say, Rusty, I actually live 2 miles west of De Leon Springs. Well, we know that the downtown area might get hit in 42, 43 minutes, but a couple miles to the west might get hit in 37. So that's part of the interaction that I want with you guys, right? That's why we have the live chat. And if you have an opportunity or want to interact with me on this channel, drop it in the comments and let me know. It's part of the reason why I wanted to start this is, breaking down that fourth wall. You guys don't have to be passive and just watch. You can be interactive. We can chat with each other in real time. A specific question about the forecast, or if you want to give me a report or an update. Some of my friends in the chat have done that, and I appreciate it, because to get that ground truth live information in real time is always very important when you're doing this, because we're not going to go back and we're not going to be talking about a lot. And there is an opportunity, by the way, that as we move forward with the channel, that we'll be able to show you guys some video from the day. We might even have some live stream video as well. There's a lot more to come with Central Florida Weather Live. I call this version 1.0, but I think it's a very robust version 1.0, and I hope you're getting a lot out of this right now, and I hope that you're going to get a lot of it in the future as well. But there will be the opportunity to expand kind of our presentation here that I'm really looking forward to as we go through the remainder of this year and obviously and beyond. But in the short term, we're going to be adding a few new features. I mean, hopefully, if nothing else, you're enjoying your ticker down here as giving you current conditions across the area. This is, again, in real time, the bottom of your screen, several locations. I'm adding more, by the way, as well. That was kind of version 1.0 as well. I wanted to make sure it worked, wanted to make sure it cycled correctly, wanted to make sure everything was up to speed. But you get the idea that if you're just tuning in for a few minutes, you're obviously getting your live radar presentation, and at the bottom of your screen, you're kind of getting a current synopsis of what's happening in some of the cities across Central Florida, and I'll be adding more of those as well. Obviously, you're looking at your clock in real time, top left-hand side of your screen there as well. The number that you see is the current winds, and so the Inverness area reported a 20-mile-an-hour wind out of that cell. That's not bad. I would have expected it to be even a little bit more with what came through. So hopefully what we're seeing here is that these storms are going to behave with the wind profiles. Now we're going to have to wait and see how much more rain it's going to bring, and if it brings any opportunity for a few more hail cores to come through, because that was a nasty hail core down in the southern sides of Brevard County, portions of Indian River County. As a matter of fact here, just towards Vero Beach, by the way, to kind of put a bow on this as it moves offshore, more than likely there is some hail in the Vero Beach area right now. You can see that flashing purple, fuchsia color, blue color as well. It's nasty. It's rowdy out there. So here come these other storms. And again, one thing I've noticed, and I think you guys, if you've been tuning in as well, is that we've lost some of the lightning right near shore. These storms that they had been pushing in, they had a little bit more lightning with them earlier in the day. Maybe the atmosphere is a little bit more raked on the west coast. That's a huge core of storms down there. Look at that puppy. Whew. That is nasty, but it's way out there. It is way, way out there, and it's far enough south. I don't think, maybe towards Manatee County. Keep an eye on that one if it holds together, because that's beefy right there. That can move on shore and pack a punch. This is much more spotty. I'm not nearly as concerned with that particular activity right now, but let me give you an example of what's happening in Leesburg right now. All right, this cell has actually become more intense as it's moved inland. All right, so let's talk about our friends in the Leesburg area. First of all, we're going to track it from the most intense part of the cell, which is back towards Coleman and Lake Pan. Again, Leesburg, our friends in this area here along US 27, you're going to start to see some heavier rain come in momentarily, but it's going to only pick up in intensity between now and the next 15 minutes when this core will work its way into the area. So we're not tracking it from the quote unquote leading edge. I'm tracking it from the most intense part of the cell. So in this particular scenario, you're just going to see the heavy rain really move into your area with some lightning between now and the next 15 minutes. We can absolutely track it from the leading edge. And so I'm going to do that on a manual track here. Let me bring that up. And we will manually track this together. Make sure that gets off screen. Little bow here. Nothing too significant. I would expect there to be a bit of a wind push because of that. Let's say it goes out in the low 40s, because I think that's probably about a good speed. So here you go, right? From the leading edge of that more intense storm that's not severe, but it's certainly some heavier rain and a lot of lightning. Leesburg in the next few minutes or so. It says 12. I think the heaviest part gets there a little bit earlier than that, and then on off towards the east. And you can see the Eustis area at about 23, Mount Dora 27, Lake Mary 53, DeBerrien about 54 minutes, as it moves off to the east at around 35 to 40 miles an hour. But again, relatively intense between now and the next 15 minutes for those areas. So that's one cell to watch out for, because again, few things. First of all, it got more intense as it moved off towards the east through Inverness and Floral City. It's kind of out by itself a little bit. There's no other cell down here, so the wind energy might pick up a little bit down towards Bushnell. It's still in a kind of a clustered environment though. I'm not extremely concerned with it, but certainly the opportunity that storm could be a little bit stronger as it moves through Sumter County and into the northern sides of Lake County at the present time. Let me get back over here real quick. And if you got something to drop in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Just double checking, because I don't have that polygon potential or situation right now. And again, I wish that wasn't the case, but that's fine. We can work around it. Just going to bring back on our polygons real quick. Just take a second to populate. So again, it's going to end at 1:30. They haven't reissued anything else yet. They might for Vero Beach. Let me get over this side so you guys can see what I'm looking at here. They might for Vero Beach. They have a special weather statement as well. And again, even though, well, it's good news that it's not trying to make Satellite Beach under that severe thunderstorm warning. So it does pick up where the warning does begin right there. That's good news. And of course, there's your what's called METAR report. So it's going to show in real time again when that report was issued and what the conditions were. Now, these stations report hourly, but they can do special observations. So when thunderstorms come through, they typically fire off a special observation, and I'll get that in real time as well. But that's some nasty weather down there. I was just double checking, making sure that was nothing else to concern ourselves with. Again, we have special marine warnings up in this area still. We have a couple of special weather statements towards the Jacksonville area, and then we have our severe thunderstorm watch in red for everyone else. So again, that's what this product is going to be able to show me. I'm going to get that off of there right now. And again, it's just a server issue of some kind where we're not getting the actual polygons for the warning. So it stinks a little bit, but again, I can still bring you guys the information, which is obviously the most important part when we're tracking these things live for you here. Let's get back up to portions of Lake County. Again, if you live in Leesburg, if you live in Wildwood and Sumter County, again, it's a pretty nasty storm. And of course, this is always, I travel this area fairly often to go visit my parents back in Citrus County. And it's always rough driving. And then you add in these storms, near the villages right now, and the Wildwood interchange there. I mean, I-75 Turnpike interchange is always kind of rough, and that's going to more than likely slow things down. And obviously, too, if you travel this area, all the construction that is ongoing right now through the turnpike. It goes from 4 lanes on each side down to 2 lanes. They're trying to make it wider. It's been very slow go, and obviously rain like this is not going to help the situation. 44 towards Leesburg. Again, Leesburg, Fruitland Park, kind of right on the edge of these storms firing up and working their way into the area. Same thing for Eustis and Umatilla. Light rain for Mount Dora. Seeing a couple of showers redevelop right now over Metro Orlando. They're very isolated in nature, and they're very light for Oak Ridge and Belle Isle, the 417 corridor, down towards Lake Buena Vista. Just east, though, of the attractions could be a few showers near I Drive. And again, always kind of interested in this area to keep an eye on it, as many tourists and as many people are just outdoors in this area of Central Florida. And we know, doesn't matter, as long as the attractions are open, there's going to be a lot of people outdoors here in this portion of Central Florida. So I always keep a very vigilant eye on that. I mean, obviously keep a vigilant eye on everyone, but we always know there's something going on in those areas. Again, nasty storm moving out of Indian River County right now. And then we're watching these showers and storms continue to try and work their way inland. And again, some of the lightning has come down just a little bit right now on the far western edge of these storms. That's good news. I'm going to go over to the Storm Prediction Center real quickly here and see if they've actually issued any what's called mesoscale discussions. I could actually look at those right now on this if I want to. So I can click on what's called mesoscale discussion here. And if there is one, it would actually pop up on. They did issue one. So let's see if we can find this together here, guys. Let's take off the watch. Go to Storm Prediction Center. Says it's on. Can we query it though? I don't see it. That's okay. Let's see what it says here. I'm going to put the watch back on. So they issued this at 12:15, a little while ago. But they said the severe threat for the thunderstorm watch continues. Strongest convection so far has been around Lake Okeechobee or north. Weak west to southwest low-level winds should strengthen, become a little bit in the deeper layer. Shear should support organized thunderstorms for the rest of the afternoon, although multiple modes have become a bit messy with the mergers and the interactions, as I've mentioned. Any semi-discrete cells, which means by themselves, and we've talked about that as well, could still pose a threat for isolated severe hail given the presence of these steep mid-level lapse rates. What that means is, as you go higher in the atmosphere, if it gets colder quicker, that means you have a lower freezing level and you have more instability. So when they talk about quote-unquote steep lapse rates, that's as you go higher in the atmosphere, how quickly the atmosphere cools. And so steeper means obviously quicker cooling. Strong to locally damaging winds will remain a concern. The air mass is slightly less unstable, but an isolated severe hail wind threat may still exist. I feel pretty good about my analysis. I feel like that's about what I've said, just kind of based on what I've been seeing out there. But again, that's the Storm Prediction Center basically giving an update on this watch that goes until 5 o'clock. They are acknowledging that we haven't had a lot of severe weather yet, minus some of those stronger and severe storms in southern Brevard, portions of Osceola, and down in Indian River County. But they still think that the cluster moving on shore could pose an isolated severe weather risk through the remainder of the watch time frame until 5 o'clock. Main threats are still going to be wind and hail. And then again, when they're talking about lapse rates, they're talking about getting some colder weather closer to the surface of the earth. And obviously that means your freezing level, where we turn the water into ice and get ourselves some hailstones that can drop back down, is closer to the surface, and it makes it easier for that to happen. So that's what they're talking about there. And it's all still in play, but in a very marginal way, okay? And again, they're talking about getting these storms to be discrete. And what that means is they're out there by themselves, right? They've got their own wind environment. Those are the ones that can really pulse up and be strong. This is why I mentioned a few minutes ago this particular one, just because on the southern side, there's nothing there. We're void right now. We might have had a little bit of heating during the afternoon hour, the early afternoon hours here, because there's certainly some cloud coverage out there, but they haven't had a lot of rain in that area in a few hours. So again, that would be one that I could see pulse up in intensity a bit. It's nowhere near being severe right now, but I think it's one of the strongest ones that's in town. Lady Lake towards Leesburg and Bushnell and Lake Pan and Wildwood. And again, it's been very spotty for Pasco and Hernando counties and Pinellas and Hillsborough counties. Has not been horrible there. We had a strong storm over Anna Maria Island, just north of the Bradenton area. You can see a lot of the lightning is now well offshore. So I'll be very curious over the next couple of hours how this plays out. If this moves in this spotty, ragged fashion, I think we're looking pretty good. I really do. We'll see if the intense storms can hold together and work their way in. That being said, we're still going to have a relatively wet, stormy afternoon. Maybe we don't have a lot of severe storms, but again, we're going to fill in this radar fairly prominently between now and 4 or 5 o'clock at the latest. I hope that most of the storms after 5 o'clock are off to the south. I'll mention it again. There's an opportunity that some pickups from schools could be impacted by the 30-30 rule. Always something we have to keep an eye on here when we're talking about widespread storms. Obviously, that's very area dependent and very localized. So, you, the parents, know exactly what's going on with your school. Hopefully you'll have that lifeline that will let you know if you fall under the 30-30 rule. But I'm just letting you know that the timing of the storms are there that could impact some pickups from school. And again, I've mentioned it before. If you need to run an errand across the I-4 corridor, this is still probably your best window. That will be shutting down as more of this activity works its way farther off towards the east. And again, even a little spotty shower here in the south side of Metro Orlando, Belle Isle, Conway area, a little bit of rain towards the airport right now, picking up just a little bit towards Lee Vista and Lake Nona. There's the beach line there, the 528. Again, just a little development. Now, what's interesting is this is nothing right now, but this is also all out by itself. So is this one of the cells that tries to ramp up in intensity a little bit as it pushes off towards the east? It's certainly a possibility, but it doesn't look to be something of a big concern at this point in time. All right, friends, I'm going to take just a real quick break, get a swig of water. I'll be back here in just 1 second. Thank you so much for watching here at Central Florida Weather Live. And again, thank you for liking this live stream. If you're not a subscriber yet, make sure you click that subscribe button right now. I appreciate you. Hi, friends. Welcome back. Welcome myself back, I guess. It's 1:43 on this Wednesday afternoon, live here, Central Florida Weather Live, tracking the opportunity for some strong to severe storms to continue to impact Central Florida the remainder of the afternoon hours. All of the areas that you see in red are a severe thunderstorm watch that goes until 5 p.m. this evening. Weather has been relatively behaved for the most part. We've had a pretty nasty storm down in southern Brevard County, portions of Indian River County. Continue to watch a large complex of storms coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, and it's this push of storms to the west that will be the prominent area to continue to monitor here over the next few hours. Again, this severe thunderstorm watch does go until 5 o'clock. In a lot of areas, you're at least going to get another round of showers and storms. It may not be severe, but that opportunity is still there. If you're just tuning in, kind of recapping again, we had a morning round of storms that came through that did help to potentially take down some of the intensity of the storms as they've redeveloped this afternoon. We lost some instability in the atmosphere, but there still is the possibility, especially if these storms can get by themselves, that they could be strong to severe. Now, looking at what's happening right now in Metro Orlando, here is a little bit of shower activity that has redeveloped. And again, you're just seeing a little bit in the way of a cell trying to kind of get developed here and move off basically to the east at around 20 miles an hour. But there's some rain right now for the Conway area, just east of Edgewood and Pine Castle there, across Cimarron, and on over towards the 417 and Rio Pinar and places like that. And then on over towards Dean and University Boulevard, and there's Bithlow, everything moving off towards the east. There is the 408 right there. So it's going to stay just generally to the east of Azalea Park and Union Park. This shower might sneak up into that area. But again, right now at this point in time, it is just in the way of a little bit of rain. So nothing too intense from that right now. You can see that the most intense part of that cell is going to be pushing deeper into the northeast sides of Orange County. So you can see that right now. So the Bithlow area, and then where Colonial 50 splits off from 520 there, just to the east of Bithlow. That's where that cell is headed. It's not severe. There's no lightning either out of it right now. But again, this is just one little area where the rain has been able to kind of develop out ahead of anything else. And if anything's going to try and get squirrely, it's going to be something like that. I've mentioned this cell up in Leesburg, and it's gotten stronger, okay? Again, there's no activity off to its south, so the wind energy that's coming into the southern side of this is not being disrupted in any way. So this storm is a little bit more intense right now, far northwest sides of Lake County, the Lady Lake area, Fruitland Park, Leesburg, but especially, my friends, now in Umatilla, Eustis, and Tavares. That's the next area that's going to be impacted by this. You can see as it moves off towards the east very rapidly. Now again, this is from the area of concern and the most intense part of this cell, rather than the actual leading edge, which is about ready to move into those areas that I just mentioned. So for Bassville Park, 12 minutes, Eustis 14, Mouth Plymouth 25, DeBerry 43. So if it can hold together, it's going to try and get into portions of Volusia and Seminole counties, including Sanford in 47 minutes, Deltona 48, Lake Helen 52. And again, what it's being produced potentially out of this cell, let me make sure I get on that correctly, potentially for some hail up to a ½ inch in size. Okay, so it's not a tremendously strong storm, but there could be some pea to dime sized hail out of that right now. That's what I'm pinging. So if you know anyone who lives in Eustis and Umatilla, you know, they just might want to get the car, make sure it's in the garage. But if anything else, this is no fun traveling in this up and down 19 and along portions of 441. Now again, this could scrape places like Mount Dora and the Mount Plymouth areas as well, so I'll be monitoring that. But generally speaking, again, Eustis, Umatilla, through northern sides of Lake County. Now we're trying to see development continuing to build to the south with this cell. So Yahala and Astatula, and now beginning to inch back down 27 towards the turnpike. So again, that's just one little area where I think we could ramp up a bit of intensity here as it moves off towards the east, because there's nothing stopping it here. And we've had just a little bit of reheating of the atmosphere because we haven't had any storm activity here since around daybreak. It's still relatively overcast in most areas, but we've seen the temperatures come up a little bit. And again, when you heat the surface, you're just putting a little bit more instability in everything overall. Again, thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. If you got a question, drop it in the comments section below. Miss Pumpkin Yvonne says, hi, Rusty. I'm watching from Altamont Springs. How bad will it be? Well, Yvonne, first of all, thank you so much. Can I call you Miss Pumpkin? I would love to, by the way. That would be awesome. We are going to be watching for you. I'm going to be watching for you over the next, let's say, 45 minutes, because this cell, if it can hold together and move off to the east, could impact you here in the next 45 minutes. What I can do for you, because you specifically asked, and I absolutely appreciate that, and I'm happy to oblige, is I'm going to put a manual track on from if this cell holds together. So we're going to start right about here, and we're going to go out, and they've been moving around 40 miles an hour. So you can see that if this cell, and this is, we're kind of speculating, or I'm kind of, predicting in time here, if this part of the cell can hold together, this is when it would be moving through your area in about 40 minutes. It's not severe, but some heavier rain, maybe some lightning as well. But again, we've got to develop this part of the cell. Right now, it's to your north. If this were to kind of play out as it is right now, Yvonne, I think with this particular cell, you wouldn't get much. But again, is this the only one that you're going to have? Potentially no, because again, there's more to come on shore as well. But for the leading edge, it's something that's a little bit easier to talk about maybe in the next 40 minutes here for portions of northern Orange County and portions of Seminole County as well. I'll be keeping a really close eye on that. Thank you, Yvonne, for your question. And again, so that could be tracking into Apopka. And I've already mentioned Mount Dora. We'll see how far south it can slide towards the Lake Apopka area. This cell is getting a little bit stronger over Bithlo. Just mentioned that, moving right across the Colonial 50-520 split there, and it continues to push off towards the east. So now, for our friends, Linda, you're in Titusville, right? Another cell might be coming your way. It's getting a little bit stronger right now. So we'll see how this one goes as it heads this way. If I click it again a second time, again, the most intense part of the cell is 58 minutes away, but there will be some rain ahead of that as well. So I'll be watching northern Brevard County with this cell. And again, what's interesting about this one more than anything is it's all out by itself, right? The atmosphere is not as unstable as what it was earlier in the day, but these are the kinds of cells that I watch out for if we're going to get anything kind of squirrely trying to redevelop ahead of any larger squall line. And speaking of squall line, that really hasn't materialized out west. I was more concerned this morning that these storms would be coming in one solid punch of a line, and they could be really nasty with the wind there. That hasn't materialized as of yet along the west coast. The storms have actually really held together well through Osceola and Brevard and Indian River counties and pushing their way off towards the south and to the east. They've really done some good work, if you will, holding together. But again, they're kind of getting out of our area as we speak. So again, that's an interesting cell right there. Let me switch back over to the National Weather Service NextRad radar out of the Tampa area. Take a look at that. And while I'm doing so, I would love for you guys to click the like button. You know I'd appreciate that. If you're not a subscriber to Central Florida Weather Live, appreciate you. Again, what's the gist of this channel? It's a live-only channel. I'm only going to be on when there's active weather like this. It might be marginal, strong to severe storms, could be pockets of intense lightning, and it could be all-out gangbuster, horrible, nasty weather here in Central Florida, severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado warnings, okay? But you know that when I'm live, there's something for you guys to check out. And again, I've mentioned it, and it's absolutely just fine. And I think that's what a lot of you do. You're gonna come on here, you're gonna see what I'm talking about, you know where you live, you're gonna see if anything is gonna be headed your way. You could do like Yvonne just did and specifically ask me. And I have no problem when it's not a situation that I have to closely monitor something like a tornado warning, I'm absolutely happy to try and interpolate what I see and how that's going to potentially impact your area. And then you can either get on with your day, or you can come back and watch us later, or you can keep watching me for the next several hours. Again, that's what I love. It's the beauty about a streaming channel like this, is that you guys are in control, because I'm on whenever there needs to be weather. There's no show times here. There's no geographic boundaries. There's a lot of freedom, is what I'm saying. And another piece of that freedom that I love is our ability to chat and interact. And I hope that's something that, as this channel grows, we have a very active chat, because I want people talking to each other. I want people talking to me. I want people talking about what the weather's like in the area, asking questions, eventually sending us pictures and videos. Hopefully we'll have some live potential video to show you, some live streams, if you will, from what the weather is going to be like. There's a lot of things that we are looking to do here on this channel. And again, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, this is kind of version 1.0, but I think it's a really robust version 1.0. I wouldn't have been coming on here live if this wasn't something that I was already very proud of as far as a presentation, what we can do. But we can always do more, and excited to bring that. But right now, showing you that intense cell going over Umatilla and Eustis. And you can see the lightning with it as well. So we do have some lightning around this core of highest reflectivity. And as a matter of fact, let's take a look and see if we have any hail out of this. Again, we can take a look, and you can see that the radar is pinging on hail right on 19. Now, it may not be very large in size, okay? We might be talking about, well, I mean, look, you're getting up to quarter-sized hail here as a potential. This could be a little bit disrupted, because there might be some heavy rain that makes it look like the hail is a little bit bigger than what it really is. But it's not going to shock me if there's at least some pea or dime-sized hail falling across 19 right now, potentially right over the Eustis area. So again, that's tracking off towards the east as it moves away. Southern sides of Umatilla, but right over Eustis. Eustis right now could have some decent hail right over your area. It doesn't look like it's going to be what we would call severe hail. Maybe some smaller coin-sized hail at most, maybe just a little bit of pea-sized hail as well. When I zoom out, you see it's about the only hail that's in our area. And again, really, really intense storms that have moved offshore. They actually ramped up even longer or stronger as they move through. But that little cell there, northern Lake County, is an interesting one. And the other thing too is, you notice there's a fair amount of lightning strikes around that potential hail core. It's an indication that it's a very intense part of that cell, right? Because a lot of these cells are obviously rain wrapped. So we have to use our radar data to really interpret what's happening in the core of that extreme heavy rain. Sometimes it's really strong winds, sometimes it's hail, sometimes it's lightning, sometimes it's all three. And this one right here over Eustis looks to kind of be all three. I would also say if you live in Mount Dora, you could get brushed by that part of the cell that's at least potentially producing some smaller sized hail. Certainly not out of the question. That's the hail size. Looking at the severe hail probability, that looks to be relatively low. So we'll say less than 30% chance that this is hail over an inch in size. And I think that's true. I don't think more than likely we have actual severe hail out of this. But again, who wants to get some pea-sized hail on the car? Avoid it if you can. Look at velocity here. Just make sure that there's no wind. That's not velocity. That is. We're on the kind of the edge of the Tampa radar here. There's at least some decent wind. Leesburg, Yalhalla. Not going to be severe, but some pretty gusty winds there. And again, that core of lightning just lets me know that that part of the cell is more intense. Again, looking offshore, and this is actually a nice product to look at here for the winds that are coming onshore, for places like Palm Harbor and Tarpon Springs, Newport Richey, Bayonet Point. You can see that there's a little bit of change in the wind direction here, but nothing that is very tight and nothing that's very strong. Got to say the winds of these storms that have moved through the West Coast have really behaved themselves a bit, which is fantastic news. I'm going to switch over to the Melbourne site. We'll take a look at the same situation there as well. because I want to look at that one cell that's moving out of the Bithlo area right now. So let's get over to the Melbourne site. We'll have our velocity product pop on here in just a second. There you go. Let's check out if there's any wind in that one. Doesn't look to be. Again, moving towards Titusville. So keep that in mind, my friends in Titusville. At least some heavier rain moving back in. Potentially some smaller size hail. Titusville in about a half hour. But I don't see any spin here. I don't see any twist. Again, it was much more intense down here. But even that's gone away. So it's all good news as far as that goes too. Let's get back over to our reflectivity. Take a look at that. So we'll see if this gets intense enough to produce either a special weather statement or a severe thunderstorm warning. As a matter of fact, because I don't have access to the polygons right now, I'm going to keep an eye out on my tablet. And again, if I have to, we can bring on the boxed watches and warnings. It's not the polygons. Before, there's a couple of different data feeds I can use. Before we went to the polygon system, if you guys remember, they just issued by counties. And so I can still access the county by county system when we have a warning that's currently in place. Unfortunately, it looks like just the data feed that comes into the computer that gives me the polygon warnings is just not active right now. I've been trying to, on the fly, see if I can fix it. It worked yesterday. This is actually the first time it hasn't worked, so I think it's just a hiccup in the system that hopefully can be resolved once I get off of stream here, at least in the short term. But again, we still have access to the warnings when we need to. And that watch is still currently in effect, and you see that. The watches aren't impacted by that data outage. So you can see the track of that more prominent cell, some of the times of arrival if it holds together. Again, it's potentially heavy rainfall. Again, this thing has it racing at 52 miles an hour. It's just blasting through if that's actually accurate. And there certainly is going to be some heavier rain ahead of it as well. Hopefully it cooperates, but that is a relatively intense part of the cell moving through the Eustis, Mount Dora, Mount Plymouth area just east of Umatilla. New lightning strike just flashed on. So it tells me that the intensity of this is sticking around. We're still getting some lightning in that core. It's a pretty small area, but it's pretty heavy. And again, at this point in time, there's nothing stopping it. There's nothing on the south side that's going to cut off some of that wind flow. So that cell could hold together and continue to be one of the stronger ones over the next half hour or so. Again, this cell is beginning to get closer to Titusville and Mims. It's going to cross I-95 again in the northern sides of Brevard County. No lightning out of any of it, but again, another intense downpour. We're at 2 o'clock right now on this Wednesday afternoon. Of course, as always, never going to be different. I'm live here at Central Florida Weather Live. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're just popping on right now, first thing I'd ask you to do is jump on and give me a like. I appreciate that. If you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. Jump in and let me know how things are in the chat as well. Just like Tony did, saying hi from Claremont. We're still under that severe thunderstorm watch until 5 o'clock. Yes, you are, Tony. Severe thunderstorm watch for all of Central Florida until 5 p.m. There's no severe thunderstorm warnings that are currently in effect. If there are, we'll obviously talk about those. Of course, watches last for longer durations of time. Warnings are the ones meaning that we have imminent severe danger, and we'll talk about those threats. But at this point in time, there are no severe thunderstorm warnings. If you're just tuning in, we had some intense storms in southern Brevard County and portions of Indian River County in the last 90 minutes or so. And then very early this morning, we had some stronger storms in portions of Lake and Volusia and Cibolo counties that worked their way through the metro, probably when you were either getting up, getting ready to go to work, or trying to get the kids from school. Now we have replaced the tornado watch that was in effect through 11 a.m. with a severe thunderstorm watch until 5 p.m. The main reason why is the Storm Prediction Center, National Weather Service felt like the tornado threat has come down for Central Florida, but they did specifically say when they issued that severe thunderstorm watch that a tornado or two is still possible. Nothing that I have seen, and I have been on live now for nearly 3 hours in a row, nothing that I've seen has really brought me too big of a concern, except for that one cell near the Miko area that had a little appendage to it, but luckily it got congested on the south side and nothing too squirrely happened, but that one did produce a severe thunderstorm warning and potential for some decent sized hail in the far southeast sides of Brevard County and portions of Indian River County. Most intense cell right now is going to be moving through the northern sides of Lake County. You notice that some showers have developed now through the Mount Dora, Mount Plymouth area. Nothing too significant, but there's still a little bit of building off to the south of this cell. So even places like Apopka and Wekiwa Springs and Winter Springs, Lake Mary, Sanford, Deltona could get impacted by that. The rain is just really becoming more prominent right now as you get through Volusia County, from Pearson and Astor and DeLeon Springs and DeLand and Orange City, Deltona. The rain has been able to work its way back into Ormond Beach and Daytona Beach. And again, at this point in time, a bit of lightning with this, but not a ton of lightning out of it. So not too concerned with the intensity of what we're seeing out ahead of this core. But this core does bear some watching. And so for that reason, I'm going to put on a little storm track for us here. We'll do this in manual mode. You notice that area that's just flashing in red? I'm going to outline that, and we're going to move it into this area here at about 40 miles an hour. I don't want to go any quicker than that, but I do want to highlight some of the areas that, if at nothing else, is going to see the opportunity for some heavier rain and storms. And again, an area that potentially has producing some hail as well. Certainly looked like the Eustis area might have had at least some smaller sized hail. So DeBerry in 20 minutes, Orange City in 21, DeLand 22, Deltona 24, Lake Helen 27, and eventually, if this holds together, it then gets towards the coastline. You can see those times of arrival, including Glencoe 49, New Smyrna Beach 53, and Edgewater in at 55. We'll see how that handles it, but you can see again that with that last turn of the radar there from the Melbourne radar site, that it is still holding together. And again, my weather computer is picking up the algorithm that says there's a 10% chance for hail. And I hope that's the case. I hope that this is just a good core of heavy rain and lightning. Tony, thanks for saying hi. I appreciate you. Anyone else jump in? Hi, Emma. How you doing? Boston. Nice. Yes, Boston has some weather. Central Florida weather live, Emma. Central Florida weather live. I can't cover Boston. I appreciate it, though. Funny, by the way. Is there a Boston, Florida that I don't know about that's somewhere in Central Florida? If there is, let me know. I'm happy to cover it. But if we're talking about a fantastic town in the Northeast, that's not what we do here. But I appreciate you. I do. I like it, though. Hey, Emma, what's the number one thing? You don't know until you ask, right? Here's the problem. I would be crazy enough to show you, but then I'd have to answer everyone's question. Everyone would want to know where their vacation spot is, and the next thing you know, we're not covering any active warnings here in Central Florida. But I appreciate the effort, I do. You can see some of the storms there over Indian River County, moving off towards the south and to the east. And again, that little cluster is moving into Titusville as we speak, but it really didn't end up being much there. Mims and Titusville will get another shower over their area, but that cell that pulsed up a little bit over Bithlo really has waned. And again, this is another indication to me, as I'm analyzing this in real time, that the instability in the atmosphere has come down a bit. Because if we had a little bit more instability, if we had a little bit clearer skies in the late afternoon, or early If we had clear skies in the late morning, early afternoon, this cell might have been able to become a little bit more intense. But I think that we have a little bit more stable air in place right now. And even the cells that are getting out by themselves aren't pulsing up. It's all great news, relatively speaking. And again, I'm really keeping a close eye on what's happening along the West Coast, because I promise you there's a ton of energy out there, but we just haven't really fired off anything. So we can reset things real quickly. I'm going to take off the radar here. A couple of things for note, and then we'll get back into it. I'm going to take off the lightning as well. First of all, from the Storm Prediction Center, we still have what's considered to be a slight risk of severe storms. So it's a 2 out of 5 on the scale, okay? Yesterday it was just a 1 out of 5 for today, but they did up that risk to 2 out of 5. That's the yellow, the slight that you see. That being said, we've been seeing things behave for the most part. That severe thunderstorm watch goes until 5 o'clock. which is great news, right? But again, there's still that opportunity that a rogue storm could crop up, and we're going to have to monitor that situation. Now, this has been a very active pattern for us the last few days. This is tomorrow's outlook. Everything is off to the south. This will be the last round of storms from this pattern to come through. All those impulses of energy out of the Gulf of Mexico. If for some reason you're traveling to the southern third of the state tomorrow, additional storms could redevelop. But for Central Florida, this is the last push, and hopefully most of it is out of here by 5 p.m. tonight, and then we're in store for some quieter weather. But again, Storm Prediction Center did up the coverage a little bit as far as the intensity goes. Going back over to my model here, I'm going to pop on our high resolution model over the next couple of hours. This is going to give you guys a good indication of how things will play out the remainder of the day. Now, maybe you're just joining me right now, which is fantastic. I appreciate that very much. But let me tell you how I interpret these models in real time. First of all, let me pause it and bring it back to what's happening right now. So the first thing I do when I look at this high resolution rapid refresh, this model updates hourly, okay? So it's kind of like looking at what's happening right now and then the quick short term. What you need to understand is, does this model have a good grasp on what's actually happening at 2 o'clock? And the answer is yes. You can see that it has correctly put on the storms through Indian River County south, nasty storms offshore. It's got the cluster of storms in our northwest areas. Maybe it's a little bit behind some of the storms in northern Lake County, but in a general sense, I think this model has a good handle on what's happening through the here and the now. It's maybe a little bit too intense for the storms out west, but it's not bad. This is a model that I think has a handle on what's happening in the short term. So how does this play out? Well, as we get towards 3 o'clock, and again, this updates every hour, and I have not seen this model run. So you and I are analyzing it in real time. At 3 o'clock, it has that cluster of storms now moving through Volusia and Flagler counties and maybe northern sides of Seminole County. Not a ton in Orlando at 3 o'clock, which is a change. The last time I showed this model, it was much more active through the heart of Orange County and Lake County. So that's a change for the better here. It does try and bring in some beefier storms down towards St. Petersburg and Tampa and Bradenton. We'll see if that plays out, because again, in general, as these storms have gotten closer to the west coast, they've actually lost a little bit of their intensity. Here's 4 o'clock. Again, it looks better now for the Orlando metro area. We have more coverage, right? We have more storms overall in general, but nothing looks too squirrely. Maybe not a lot in the way of severe storms, even though we still have that severe thunderstorm watch, just more coverage. 5 o'clock, certainly an improvement in the model here from the last time I ran it just an hour ago. It's more than likely picking up on the fact that there's not as much instability in the atmosphere in Central Florida as there previously was. And you can think, by the way, the morning round of storms. The morning round of storms coming in, helping to rake the atmosphere, to really stabilize it a bit, more than likely is one of the biggest factors as to why these storms haven't become as intense as they otherwise would have been. Then as we get towards 6, 7 o'clock, everything should be way off to our south. So it looks good. Let's go back and just loop this right on over the next 9 hours. And again, you can see the coverage in your area. Look, if you got to get the kids still, you need to run an errand in the afternoon, there's a really good chance it's going to be wet and stormy. But hopefully the intensity of this is going to be something we're going to be tracking multiple severe thunderstorm warnings at any one point in time. Hi, DH. Love the information and the constant coverage. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in as well. If you're here, guys, just like DH, drop it in the comments. Let me know. I really appreciate that. Lets me know that I'm talking to folks. And again, would love the interaction too, for you guys chatting with each other or letting me know what you would like to get out of this as well. While you're there, if you're not a subscriber, thank you for subscribing. Again, you're looking at our high resolution model over the next 9 hours, and you can see some of those showers and storms moving back in. So I do expect the coverage of storms to increase again over the next hour or two, but let's hope we keep that intensity down a bit. That would be fantastic. The trends from the models have been to do so. Certainly looks like everything that I've seen since I've been on at 11 o'clock, the intensity of these storms just aren't going to be as high as they could have been had we not had that morning round come through. It's good news. Still watching this storm over Deltona in Orange City. It's still pinging on the slightest chance that there might be some very small hail over 44. So if you live in Orange City and Deltona, the intensity of the rain's going to be picking up. Can't rule out some extremely small hail, but more than likely just some heavy rain. And you can see how that rain has really become much more widespread through the northern sides of Volusia County, Port Orange, Daytona Beach, Orange Beach areas like that as well. Friends, I'm going to take a quick break. Leaving the radar up here, Central Florida Weather Live. I'm just going to take a few seconds and regroup, but I'll be back on. We'll continue our coverage here in just 1 minute. All right, friends, I'm back, 2:18 on this Wednesday afternoon. Been really assessing the situation here, obviously, in real time. Now, again, we have our severe thunderstorm watch that goes until 5 o'clock, but I am very pleasantly surprised that the intensity of these storms has not really gotten any stronger this afternoon. This first complex right here was a real telltale. Now look, the rain is beginning to fall in places like Altamont Springs and Lake Mary and Sanford and Deltona, but these are just some passing showers right now for the most part. If I put on the lightning strikes, you can see that within this area here, at least of a moderate or an intense lightning strike, we've only had a couple. So certainly the intensity of this has been cooperative. The rain is going to be fairly intense from time to time, the northern sides of Volusia County down to the southern sides of Flagler County, and there's a little lightning storm there over the Palm Coast area right now. But again, nothing that I am seeing here in real time that I'm overly concerned with. So it's good news. Again, potentially some school pickups could be impacted by this. You notice that there's a little bit of green here. There could see some redevelopment towards Lake County and portions of Orange County. And again, right now it would be Altamont Springs, Wekiva Springs, Lockhart, and this is drifting east towards Castleberry and Winter Springs for a few downpours coming in. But at this point in time, it's not much more than that. This is out of the Melbourne radar. Let me switch over again to what's going to be happening here in the Tampa radar. And the whole analysis of this was always what the intensity of the storms are going to be coming off of the eastern side of the Gulf of Mexico and back on shore. There's a few things to note here. There's a couple of nasty storms off of Cedar Key right now. There's some intense lightning there, and it's really been this far northern area, right? From Cedar Key to Inglis and, kind of coastal portions of like Levy County and Citrus County. Those have had the most intense cells as they've moved on shore, and then they drift into Marion County and Alachua County as well. But here, where I was really potentially anticipating there'll be some very active weather for coastal southern Citrus and Hernando and Pasco down towards Pinellas counties. It just really hasn't materialized. There's a ton of energy still, and you can see all these clusters of storms, but as they've moved closer to the West Coast, they've really behaved. So at this point in time, quite honestly, things are relatively quiet here. I mean, we do have this cluster here that's going to produce some heavy rain, but even the lightning counts have come down. Now, I zoom out far enough, we're still pinging nearly 400 lightning strikes, but in our actual area here, it's certainly much less than that. And a lot of this is all periphery stuff, right? Really, this cell here, I mean, that thing got nasty as it moved offshore. So we have the severe thunderstorm watch to 5 o'clock, but at this point in time, I really do believe that the most active weather has probably passed us by. It still bears a lot of watching over the next few hours, and that's what I'm going to do. But that being said, because I just don't want to go on and talk about just areas of light rain, that you guys know that when I'm on, it's really something that you need to be paying attention to. I'm going to wrap up coverage here in just a couple of minutes. Been on for a little over 3 hours. And was absolutely prepared to go on for the next several hours if need be. And let me be clear about this too. If these storms do ramp up, I will be back on and I'll be tracking them for you live. But I don't want to just stay on for a prolonged period of time when there's not a lot of active weather, because I want you guys to kind of start training yourselves that when you see the alert on your phone that says Central Florida weather live is live, that there is a very good reason that you guys need to be tuning in. So again, I'm going to wrap things up here in just a minute. The first a couple of things I want to say. First of all, thank you so much for tuning in. I can't appreciate you guys enough. You're some of the obviously first viewers of this channel, and thank you for sticking with me on that. And again, I think there's a lot of good stuff coming here to Central Florida Weather Live, especially as we get deeper into sea breeze storm season. The ability to go on immediately whenever those sea breeze storms develop, to track them for you guys wherever they are, I think is going to be a great benefit, and I'm looking forward to bringing you that. I appreciate you guys for liking this video. I appreciate you to subscribe to the channel. If you would like to see some other ways that you can help support the channel, just look at the description below, and I appreciate any of that, and anyone who has helped support the channel. You have my heartfelt thanks. So thank you so much for tuning in to this live stream. And again, we're going to do it again real soon, guys. This is going to be something that I'll be coming your way whenever there is the opportunity for some storms. Again, just to kind of wrap things up, we'll watch for some of this activity to continue to move across Central Florida. If anything pulls up and becomes severe, I will come back on. This will be the last round of storms in what has been an active pattern across Central Florida over the last 3 days. Once these storms push off to the south after 5 p.m., we will have a quieter forecast, at least for the next couple of days, but you know I'll keep you updated. And again, anytime there's a situation to come back on live, you know that I will. Let me jump over to the chat one more time real quickly here. Of course, I just closed it. I'm really smart. All right, give me 1 second. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything from you guys before I actually say goodbye. So give me 1 second here. I'm on an old live stream. There we go. I see myself talking to myself. That's good. What does a signal to the west look like for Silver Spring Shores? I'll answer that question real quick for you, DH. Sure. So a couple of different ones here. First of all, if you see this little triangle, that means there's at least a small probability of hail. And even if it's showing a decent chance for hail, if you notice the hail size is very small, okay? So it's basically saying within this complex of showers and storms, where's a little core area that there might actually be some hail. That's what the triangles mean. These are just general, more intense portions of the cell, and I can click on that, and then it's going to give me a track. This one's actually going to go all the way back here and show me where it's been traveling. All right, but that's what I can do. So basically, I have those icons on. They are radar algorithms to help me in real time analyze where some of the most important and the most intense cells are going to be. And because it's all basically computer algorithms, I can just click on those and it can give me a quick track. I can manually track them as well, and we can switch modes and look at everything. But it's almost like having a second set of eyes, if you will, to the storms, which is why I have those on. In a very fast analysis time, it allows me to look at some of the most intense part of the cell. So that's why I have that on. But great question. Again, you're going to see a lot of those different icons, the circles and the triangles, and we'll have some rotational markers as well when there's a better opportunity to have some potential tornadic activity. So again, that's all real-time analysis here with the radar. Okay, friends, we're a little bit over 3 hours here of live coverage. I appreciate you again. Thank you so much for your support of this channel. And of course, again, if these storms ramp up, I'll be back on live. If not, I'll see you next time that active weather will be impacting us here in Central Florida. If I don't see you the remainder of this Wednesday, have a great rest of your day, and make sure you take care of yourselves and each other.